Chapter 1140. Qing Yutong, just whose side are you standing on? Qing Yu was drunk. Is this little sister of mine a fake? Every single time, he would stand on Yi Hua's side. Qing Yutong said gravely, too many things happened tonight. Lai Gu was poisoned, and the person who poisoned him was one of brother-in-law's subordinates, Qing Su, and that Qing Su kidnapped Dou Fushi and brought him away. His whereabouts are unknown, and the most important thing is Wei Chang gone missing. Moreover, he disappeared after fighting with someone, and now brother-in-law can't be contacted. After Qing Yutong finished speaking, both Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baiji remained silent. There were still a lot of things that Qian Yuqing didn't understand. For example, those subordinates of Yi Hua. Sometimes, Qian Yuqing basically didn't know who was who, and Yi Hua also didn't bring Qian Yuqing along to get to know them. Therefore, when Qian Yuqing heard what Qian Yuqing said, Qian Yuqing was also confused. She only knew that the person who was very important to Yi Hua had disappeared. Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baiji were both rather shocked. Wei Chang actually went missing as well. Wei Chang and Yi Hua's relationship was so good, Yi Hua would definitely be worried about Wei Chang's disappearance. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji still remembered that Wei Chang was by Yi Hua's side when they went to the bar. Wei Chang's disappearance definitely caused Yi Hua's mood to be bad. Even Dou Fushi was kidnapped. Too many misfortunes had happened on this night. Big sister Baiji, brother-in-law's mood tonight is truly not good. You two can find trouble with brother-in-law another day, just let brother-in-law deal with everything first. Qing Yutong suggested. As long as you two don't go and cause trouble for brother-in-law, it will be fine. Qing Ye had a whole new level of respect for her younger sister. I didn't expect that her younger sister would change after going out this time. Qing Ye patted onto Qing Yutong's shoulder and said earnestly, Yutong, big sister is very gratified right now, you have finally matured. Qing Yutong, to hell with being mature, Qing Yutong, am still young and inexperienced, I am 18 years old every year, okay? On the other side, Yi Zizi, Brett, and Zhu Tian arrived at the woodshed. It was already so late, but the three of them could still hear the sound of wood being chopped in the woodshed. The three took a look at each other. There's still someone who hasn't slept yet. The three of them did not enter from the front. Instead, they appeared in the woodshed while invisible and walked toward the figure chopping firewood. When they saw this woman, Yi Zizi and Brett both had looks of surprise on their faces. What a beautiful woman! Even Absolute Heaven expressed that she was very beautiful. Although he had sneaked a peek at her before, now that he saw her for the second time, he still felt that she was very beautiful. Yi Zizi and Brett finally understood why His Honor's younger brother would be infatuated with Yi Zizi. This kind of woman indeed deserves to be infatuated with. But, there seemed to be something wrong with this woman. She was chopping firewood so late at night, and her face was pale and haggard, as if she was injured by something. The webbing between his thumb and forefinger was red, and there were red marks on the handle of the axe. Wusu Empire's night was still very cold, but there were still beads of sweat that were dripping down her forehead, flowing down her cheeks, and falling onto the ground. Dust rose up into the air. This woman was naturally Yi. Why does she look so miserable? Brett asked curiously. Yi Zizi also felt the same. Originally, I hated it. After all, I did something wrong, and it is normal for me to be punished by His Honor. However, looking at Yi's current appearance, I feel that she is so pitiful. A girl like this is still chopping firewood, and the web between her thumb and index finger is bleeding, Zhu Tian said softly, it's all because of Yi Juetian. Why? Yi Zizi asked curiously. Because Yi Juetian is going to get married to Gong Yu. Zhu Tian shook his head helplessly. The news of Yi Juetian and Gong Yu getting married had long been spread throughout the palace. Yi, who had just been released, was still waiting for Yi Juetian to come and explain, and unexpectedly, what she received was indeed such a grievous news. Yi really wanted to go and find Yi Juetian and ask him why, such a big matter, why didn't you ask me? Yi had been waiting for Yi Juetian to come and explain everything every day, but Yi Juetian didn't come at all. Yi even heard that. Yi Juetian and Gong Yu were inseparable, and they were extremely loving. This made Yi feel so much pain that she wished she was dead. Yi often asked herself why this was happening. Could it be that it was because I was born in a lowly position? To be looked down upon by everyone, even the person that one loves the most is the same. Her heart was like dead ashes. This was Yi's current state. As women, Yi Zizi and Brett felt that Yi was pitiful. Therefore, there was nothing to hide, and Yi directly revealed herself. Yi suddenly saw two women appearing in front of her. One of them was cute, and the other was tall and sexy, but she didn't recognize either of them. However, when she saw Zhu Tian who was at the back, Yi recognized Zhu Tian and immediately knelt onto the ground to greet him. "You can get up," Zhu Tian said faintly. "Thank you, Lord." Yi slowly stood up, then slightly lowered her head and stood at the side, not speaking. Brett didn't really like Yi's attitude. In any case, he just disliked Yi. "Why are you afraid of us?" Brett asked gravely. Yi lowered her head and didn't speak. "Why aren't you speaking?" Brett asked again. However, Yi still lowered her head and didn't speak. Zhu Tian pulled onto Brett's sleeve. "Don't ask anymore, she rarely speaks." Indeed, the current Yi didn't speak at all. No matter how others bullied her, she wouldn't speak. It was just like how Yi Juetian saw Yi for the first time on the street. Brett took a look at Yi, then disappeared from the spot. Zhu Tian followed after Brett and left. Yi Zizi raised her head and looked towards Yi, then took out a lollipop and placed it in Yi's hand. "This is very sweet, it might be able to make you feel a bit better." After finished speaking, Yi Zizi disappeared from the spot as well. Yi held onto the lollipop in her hand and stood there for a very long time. Soon after, Yi lightly opened the packaging of the lollipop and looked at the pink ball. Yi stuck out her tongue and licked the lollipop, and a sweet taste lingered in her mouth. "The lollipop is indeed delicious, and my mood became slightly better." Yi licked a few mouthfuls of the lollipop, then kept it away. "I will only eat it when my mood is bad." Picking up the axe at the side, Yi arranged the wooden block properly, then raised the axe and chopped down. I wonder if Yi imagined the wooden block to be Yi Juetian. If I continue chopping down the wooden block like this, it will definitely feel great, right? Within the palace hall, Yi Hua pondered for a very long time, then called out, "White bones." The palace hall remained silent for 2 seconds, then a voice sounded out, "Your Honor. I have a mission to give you, and this mission might be rather difficult." Yi Hua said gravely. After thinking for a while, he felt that it would be better for him to let White Bones go out right now, because it would be much safer. After all, since White Bones was able to make Wei Chang go missing, then White Bones would also be able to make Yi Zizi and the others cause trouble for Yi Zizi and the others. "I am willing to go through fire and water for your honor." White Bones shouted out respectfully. "You were originally Kaiyun's subordinate, but this time, the team is facing a crisis, and it is inconvenient for other people to go out." Subordinate understands. End of this chapter. Chapter 1141. Very well, I want you to go and look for Qing Su. Although his poison is powerful, I am afraid that it shouldn't be able to do anything to air. Before going to look for Qing Su, I still want you to go and kill a person. Yi Hua said coldly. "Right now, only death can make me happy." "Your Honor, please speak." White Bones said gravely. "Go and kill the God's Realm's Emperor, Huang Feidi. I want him to die in front of everyone." Yi Hua said with an ice-cold killing intent. "Originally, I wanted to torture Huang Feidi to death, but I don't have the mood to do that anymore." Subordinate obeys. "Does your honor have any other arrangements?" White Bones asked respectfully. "Go and do what you need to do first. You have worked hard." Yi Hua said lightly. "Serving your honor will be subordinate's greatest honor." Yi Hua nodded his head and waved his hand. Yi Hua didn't even know if White Bones had left or not, but he reckoned that White Bones had left. This White Bones is indeed abnormal. If I want to kill it, I will have to spend a lot of effort. Back then, I even let it escape. Huang Feidi, I originally wanted to play a few rounds with you, but who asked me to be in a bad mood tonight? Since that's the case, don't blame me. In your next life, don't ever provoke my women or my family members. If not, only death and absolute heaven will descend. Yi Hua placed his hand on his forehead and seemed to be thinking about something. The enemy this time is very cunning. Perhaps, only this kind of enemy is worthy of fighting against me. Of course, I am referring to my brain. My strength is number one in the world. Brother-in-law, are you still thinking about the problem? Qing Yutong bounced over, looking like she was still a child. Yi Hua sighed and asked faintly, how is your big sister? She is still all right, she did not make a fuss anymore. Qing Yutong spread out her hands. With me, Yutong, isn't big sister still able to settle everything? Qing Yutong continued, brother-in-law, how about we go back now? Forget it, I still have a lot of things that I need to think about right now. Just looking at the two of them makes me feel annoyed. Yi Hua said coldly. Qing Yutong pursed her lips, brother-in-law, let's go to my bedroom and let Yutong give you a massage to help you stretch your body. Sigh, if your sister was as sensible as you, I wouldn't have to be so sad. Yi Hua shook his head, then stood up and walked down the stairs. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong held onto Yi Hua's arm and leaned onto Yi Hua's shoulder happily. Look at me, Yutong, I never do anything. They just like to do something. One day, if I really make brother-in-law disappear, I will regret it. The next morning, God's realm Yi family, Yuan Qing, pray to the emperor to help your brother get an official position. Yi Shan, who was dressed in court attire, stood beside Yi Yuanqing and said. Yi Yuanqing, dressed in a velvet armor, went to the morning court with his father. Father, the emperor wants to wipe out our Yi family. Why would he arrange a position for my brother? Yi Yuanqing said softly. If he could, he would have done so long ago. The father and daughter sat in the carriage. Yi Shan said in a low voice, Yuanqing, you can try when the time comes. It doesn't matter if you fail or not. Father, all right, I'll give it a try. Yi Yuanqing didn't have the heart to reject Yi Yuanqing's father again. It's all because of that bastard. Yi Shan bellowed. Father, please don't talk about Big Brother like that. Yi Yuanqing didn't like his father talking about Big Brother like that anymore. If it wasn't for Big Brother, I might not be standing here right now. Yi Shan said gravely, why can't I talk about him like that? If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have ended up in this state. Father. Don't forget, the emperor is afraid of Yi family now. Yi Yuanqing said coldly. His father was no longer the father from back then. His father was like a cowardly tiger that only dared to hide in his own territory. That's not me. Yi Shan said casually. Yi Yuanqing bit his lips lightly, Father, you are just jealous of Big Brother. Bastard. Pa. A slap landed onto Yi Yuanqing's face fiercely. A 5-finger mark immediately appeared on Yi Yuanqing's white face. Yi Yuanqing pulled a long face. He raised his head slightly and held onto his face, appearing to be in disbelief. I didn't expect that my father would actually slap my face. One must know that my father has never slapped me before. Yi Shan was also furious. The only daughter that I fancy is also talking to Yi Hua, I'm not happy. It seems like the entire Yi family was snatched away by Yi Hua. The carriage immediately quietened down. Both father and daughter didn't speak, and Yi Shan had also calmed down a lot. Yuanqing, father was impulsive just now. Yi Shan let out a breath, and there was a hint of apology in his words. It is natural for a father to hit his daughter, there is no need for father to apologize. Yi Yuanqing said faintly. Yi Shan suddenly recalled that when Big Brother came back, he fiercely beat up father. I really envy Big Brother's courage, I don't dare to do that myself. Yi Shan was helpless, he knew that his daughter was angry. After arriving at the entrance of the imperial palace, Yi Yuanqing got off the carriage and immediately walked into the imperial palace. Yi Shan was so shocked that he got off the carriage. Lord Yi seems to have gotten into a conflict with our daughter. Yi Shan went into a daze for a moment. He turned his head around and took a look, then shouted out respectfully, Prime Minister Shan. You are being too polite, we might be in-laws in the future. Shan Junren said with a smile, appearing to be very astute. Yi Shan was very puzzled, does this Shan Junren really want to get married? However, if it is a marriage, it wouldn't be good for Yuanqing's career. Prime Minister Shan, I can't even care about Yuanqing's matters anymore, and he even got into a fight with me just now. Yi Shan said helplessly. The meaning behind his words was that he couldn't make the decision himself, or else he should go and ask his daughter. Shan Junren naturally understood what Yi Shan meant and said with a smile, Lord Yi, let us enter the palace first. Prime Minister Shan, please leave first. You are too polite. Yi Shan knew that the reason why Shan Junren behaved like this was all because of Yi Hua. The reason why they are so respectful to Yi Hua is all because of that unfilial son. It isn't because of me. A father is becoming more and more powerful because of his son. This is simply a humiliation to me. Along the way, Yi Shan heard other people addressing him respectfully. Before Yi Hua appeared, these people wouldn't even dare to let out a fart. Look at now, they have all given quite a lot of good things to Yi Hua. This is the doing of a lowly person. Trash. The civil and military officials arrived at the palace and stood to the left and right. Right now, Yi Yuanqing was standing at the very front, and he looked rather formidable. Yi Shan could only stand at the back of the line, and this was enough to prove how low his position was. Your Majesty has arrived. Along with a high-pitched voice, Huang Feidi, who was wearing an emperor robe, appeared. For a person to still be able to smile so happily after losing two of his sons not too long ago, it could only be Huang Feidi. However, the smile that Huang Feidi was smiling at right now was because he was smiling at Yi Hua. Your mother is going to die soon, and I, the emperor, am happy. Didn't you just prevent me from touching a woman? What's the big deal about that? I will just not touch a woman. Do you think that you will be able to make me feel uncomfortable just because of that? Upon thinking about how furious Yi Hua was that day, Huang Feidi felt very happy. End of this chapter. Chapter 1142. Not only am I going to kill your mother, I am also going to kill your entire family and give your women to the dirtiest beggars. Just thinking about it makes me feel great. Blessings to your Majesty. The civil and military officials lowered their heads and shouted. Huang Feidi opened up his arms and took a deep breath, preparing to shout out, but suddenly, he felt a chill on his neck, as if he was pricked by an ice needle. After a long time, the civil and military officials were very curious as to why Huang Feidi still hasn't shouted out. Your Majesty! Your Majesty! The eunuch who was standing beside Huang Feidi shouted out. The eunuch shouted out a few times, but the emperor didn't reply. The eunuch turned his head and took a look. The eunuch finally shouted out a scream that sounded like a woman's. Following the eunuch's shout, the civil and military officials all raised their heads and looked towards Huang Feidi. They immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Boiling hot blood could be seen flowing out from Huang Feidi's neck. His imperial robe was already dyed red by the blood, and Huang Feidi still had his hands spread out. Your Majesty! There's an assassin! Your Majesty! What happened to you? The entire palace was in chaos. All of you, shut up! Shan Junren shouted out angrily. Yi Yuanqing looked at Huang Feidi, who was high above, and said gravely, His Majesty has already passed away. Although he didn't dare to believe it, Yi Yuanqing had no choice but to believe the truth in front of him. His Majesty died in front of everyone's eyes. Just who was it? Who had such great capability? At least half of the people present were supremes, and no matter how powerful the assassin was, there would definitely be some sort of aura fluctuation. Furthermore, Huang Feidi was a supreme himself, and now, he died for no reason. General Yi, what do you think? Shan Junren asked gravely. Yi Yuanqing shook his head. I don't know, His Majesty was definitely killed by someone, but this person is either too strong, or he is just air. Even His Majesty's primordial spirit was eliminated. Everyone's expression was grave. The Emperor of God's realm was assassinated in front of the civil and military officials. Just how much of a face slap is this? Prime Minister Shan, we should prepare for His Majesty's funeral. Yi Yuanqing said lightly. Shan Junren looked at the people behind him and asked softly, General Yi, how are we going to choose the crown prince? For a prime minister to ask such a thing, it was obvious that he wanted Yi Yuanqing to make the decision. Right now, there were even a lot of people who were looking at Yi Yuanqing. His Majesty suddenly died just like that. Could it be that Prince Yi did it? Yi Yuanqing had no intention of usurping the throne. Even if he wanted to, it would not be justifiable. Seeing that Yi Yuanqing was silent, Shan Junren whispered, Does Prince Yi have any arrangements? Shan Junren was full of tricks. He just wanted to ask if Lord Yi was behind this assassination. Yi Yuanqing said in a deep voice, Prime Minister Shan, my big brother is not in the God's realm. But General Yi, this is a rare opportunity, please inform Prince Yi. Shan Junren said in a low voice and walked away. Yi Yuanqing was a little hesitant and looked at his father. His father's face was filled with panic, as if he was afraid of getting into trouble. Yi Yuanqing shook his head. Ask his father. There won't be any results if I do that. I might as well go and ask Big Brother, how was he going to resolve this matter? Should he join hands with Shan Junren to seize the throne? Or should he just do his job? Yi Yuanqing looked towards the golden bright and dazzling throne with a grave expression on his face. Of course, there was also Huang Fei who was still standing. Even though he was already dead, his eyes were still filled with disbelief. Why did he die just like that? Just who was he killed? I don't even know why he died so mysteriously. However, the murderer had already left the God's realm a long time ago. To kill a trash, it was as easy as waving his hand. Huang Fei's death shook the entire spiritual city. However, the news of him being assassinated was buried. Everyone said that the emperor suddenly fell ill and died after vomiting a few mouthfuls of blood. Who came up with this excuse? Don't you think that this is too sloppy? A supreme martial artist died after vomiting a few mouthfuls of blood? Is this a joke? But no matter what, the emperor died. This was what everyone was concerned about. Furthermore, the problem now was, the emperor died, who was going to be the emperor? Among those princes of Huang Fei, all of them were idling around and not doing proper work. Even the more outstanding Huang Yun had died, and there was also the eldest prince Huang Li. Who else had the qualifications to be the emperor? However, right at this moment, someone shouted out that it was perfectly justifiable for Prince Yi to be the emperor. Although they did not have the same surname, they were still princes. However, this saying received a heavy blow from the royal family. A prince with another surname wants to be the emperor? Impossible. Right at this moment, someone questioned, other than Prince Yi, who else had the qualifications to be the emperor? The emperors of the God's realm were basically all supported by the people. Of course, they were supported by the royal family. This was also why Huang Yun cared so much about the opinions of the people. Huang Fei was the same as well. If not for taking into consideration the opinions of the people, Huang Fei would have directly killed him. However, the problem now was that there were no outstanding people in the royal family, and all of them were trash. You want to let trash become the emperor? The people couldn't afford to lose face like that. If Huang Yun knew that such a thing would happen, he would definitely act calmly. Right now, the throne was on his head, there was no need to fight over it at all. The emperor died, and the entire spiritual city was in a mess. Everyone was discussing about the issue of the new emperor. Right now, Yi Yuanqing was already standing at the entrance of Wushu Empire, and he was amazed by Big Brother's city. Such a tall and luxurious city wall, Big Brother is just too rich, isn't he? So reflective, so dazzling, this city wall is even sturdier than Spiritual City's city wall. Big Brother is truly formidable. After walking into the city, Yi Yuanqing saw a different city. The streets here were very wide, much wider than spiritual cities, and the people walking on the streets were not crowded at all. Furthermore, the streets were very busy, and the people were very friendly with each other. Everyone had a blissful smile on their faces, and they were very satisfied with their current lives. Yi Yuanqing thought to himself, Big Brother is truly a genius, to be able to manage an empire properly. Perhaps, if Big Brother is able to become the emperor of the gods' realm, it would be a blessing for the people. Thinking up to here, Yi Yuanqing seemed to have made up his mind and walked towards the royal palace. Right now, Yi Hua was currently in deep thought in his study room. Hearing that his little sister had come, Yi Hua slightly went into a daze, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. His mood became slightly better. Yuanqing. Seeing that his little sister walked over, Yi Hua said with a slight smile. Yi Yuanqing pretended to be confused. Should I call you Big Brother Emperor, or Big Brother? Up to you, as long as you are happy. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and patted onto Yi Yuanqing's head. The latter enjoyed this kind of action very much. Yuanqing, why did you come? Qian Yuqing, who was standing at the side, cried out in surprise. Sister-in-law, wow. How long has it been since we last met? How did you become so beautiful? It can't be that you had sex with Big Brother, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 1143. Qian Yuqing blushed. You're an unmarried girl. You really have a big mouth. When the time comes, no one will want you. Ha, sister-in-law is shy. Yi Yuanqing teased. Sister-in-law could only be like this in front of his brother. Yi Yuanqing's arrival had indeed made the atmosphere a lot better, and it also made Yi Hua slightly happier. Big Brother, Huang Feidi has died. Yi Yuanqing said gravely, then looked at his big brother. Qian Yuqing's eyes widened in shock as she exclaimed, What? Huang Feidi is dead? When did that happen? A few days ago. Yi Hua acted as if he didn't hear anything and continued to ponder about his own matters. Big Brother? Yi Yuanqing called softly. Yi Hua raised his head and looked towards his little sister, then responded with an, oh. He didn't put the matter to heart at all. However, Yi Yuanqing had a guess in his heart. The emperor's death was definitely related to his big brother. This time, he came down to ask his big brother. Big Brother, Huang Feidi's death. Before Yi Yuanqing could finish speaking, Yi Hua said lightly, Big Brother, I was the one who asked someone to do it. Ah! Yi Yuanqing and Qian Yuqing exclaimed at the same time. Yi Yuanqing didn't expect that Big Brother was the one who did it. His brain couldn't react. Big Brother, why? Yi Yuanqing didn't understand. Why did Big Brother want to do it now? If he wanted to do it, he could have done it earlier. Why did he do it now? I can't stand the sight of him. Yi Hua said coldly. That damned Huang Feidi. Let him die a little more quickly. It was a painless death. Indeed, Huang Feidi didn't even feel anything before he died. Qian Yuqing was a bit afraid. She was afraid that Yi Hua would start a war with the deities. It had been a period of time since I stayed at Yi Hua's side. The military strength of the entire Voidless Empire was scarce, and when compared to God's realm, the difference between the military strength of Voidless Empire and God's realm was like heaven and earth. Qian Yuqing still didn't know the strength of Yi Hua's subordinates. The battle of the 7 deadly sins wasn't a battle of attrition. Take Qing Su for example, no matter where he went, he would be able to poison a group of people. Furthermore, there was also Yi Zizi's great absorption technique, coupled with Wei Chang's great absorption technique. No matter how many people there were, it would be useless. Unfortunately, Wei Chang had disappeared and his whereabouts were unknown. Big Brother, why did you suddenly attack now? Does Big Brother want to? Yi Hua lightly waved his hand, and the conversation between him and Huang Feidi appeared. Yi Yuanqing was shocked and quickly asked, Big Brother, what happened to Aunt Lo? Mother doesn't have much spiritual spring left, and it was wasted by a palace maid. Yi Hua said coldly. Right now, he was filled with anger. This palace maid was sent by Huang Feidi. Yi Hua said gravely, most likely. This Huang Feidi. Damn it. Yi Yuanqing said hatefully. He deserved to die. Yi Hua asked faintly, what is the current situation in Spirit City? Now that Huang Feidi is dead, who will be the new emperor? Big brother, your voice is very loud right now. As long as Big Brother is willing to go back, Prime Minister Shan said that Big Brother can definitely become the Emperor of the Gods' realm. In Yi Yuanqing's heart, if Big Brother really killed the Emperor, then Big Brother should have the idea of becoming the Emperor. However, Yi Yuanqing was wrong. The reason why Yi Hua killed Huang Feidi was not for the throne. In Yi Hua's heart, the throne was just a decoration. Not interested, Big Brother, I still have a lot of things that I have to deal with. Yi Hua said calmly. How can the throne be more important than mother's illness and Wei Chang? In Qian Yuqing's heart, she also felt that Yi Hua should go back and fight for the throne. After all, the Emperor of the Gods' realm is much more powerful than this emperor. After all, that emperor is able to control a lot of planes. Even Kangluo continent is just one of the bigger planes. However, when Yi Yuanqing heard what his big brother said, he felt a wave of disappointment. Big brother is actually not interested. Yi Hua stood up and walked to his sister's side, then patted on her shoulder and said, Yuanqing, you can become the emperor. Me? Big brother, stop joking around, there has never been a woman who has become the emperor of the Gods' realm. Yi Yuanqing said fearfully. He was frightened by his big brother's terrifying thought. Yi Hua laughed lightly, Yuanqing, Big Brother killed Huang Feidi, and that was also to pave the way for you. If you sit on the throne, what difference would there be between Big Brother sitting on the throne and you sitting on the throne? Yi Yuanqing didn't expect that his big brother would actually have such a thought. Yi Yuanqing was very touched. Big Brother is actually paving the way for me, and it is even a throne. A throne that everyone covets, Big Brother is giving it to me just like that. Big Brother trusts me so much. Tell that Shan Junren, if he is sensible, then stand on my side, if not. Yi Hua sent out a death notice. If one stands on my side, at least one won't die. If one stands on the opposite side of my main body, other than death, there is no other possibility. Big Brother. I am still not mentally prepared. In the end, Yi Yuanqing is a woman, this throne is not a daughter-in-law. And from Big Brother's mouth, whoever he wants to sit on the throne can sit on it. That throne has been sat on by the royal family for 10,000 years, and now that the throne has suddenly changed to another surname, it is inevitable that an accident will occur. Yi Hua wasn't very anxious and said lightly, it's fine, you will get used to it in the future. For the next few days, you will properly have fun at Big Brother's place and think about how you should walk your path in the future. Big Brother still wants you to sit on the throne. Who said that women can't sit on the throne? Big Brother wants you to break this convention. Hearing what Big Brother said, Yi Yuanqing's blood started boiling. That's right, all these years, didn't I want to prove that women can also do what men can do? Thank you Big Brother, I will properly think about it. Yi Yuanqing said respectfully. Yi Hua treated this little sister very well, and he felt that Yi Yuanqing was very sensible, even more sensible than his own younger brother. After a period of time, Zhu Tian will be getting married. At that time, you should attend the wedding first before going back. Yi Hua added. Yi Yuanqing cried out in surprise once again, ah! Little Tian is getting married? With who? Yuqing, bring Yuanqing over to take a look, I still have a lot of things to think about. Qian Yuqing knew that during this period of time, Yi Hua was very vexed and had a lot of things to do. Thus, she gave Yi Yuanqing an eye signal, and Yi Yuanqing immediately understood. Big Brother, that little sister has gone out. Yi Hua nodded his head. The two women walked outside, and Yi Yuanqing asked curiously, Sister-in-law, just what is going on with that palace maid? Qian Yuqing sighed helplessly, too many things have happened during this period of time. Little Tian likes that palace maid. Little Tian likes that palace maid? What is going on? Didn't that palace maid harm Aunt Lo? Yi Yuanqing felt that his brain wasn't enough to process what was going on. This relationship is a bit complicated. Yuanqing, in actuality, I feel that that palace maid shouldn't have been sent by Huang Feidi, and Yi Hua should have thought wrongly. However, Yi Hua is very sensitive towards this matter, and no matter who brings up this matter, he would not show a good expression. End of this chapter. Chapter 1144. This is also because of Auntie Lu. Big brother is very filial. Yi Yuanqing could understand his big brother. Sigh, that palace maid's life is actually quite bitter. Qian Yuqing sighed. Sister-in-law, take me to see little Tian first. Yes. The two of them quickly arrived at Yi Juetian's sleeping quarters. It was broad daylight, and Yi Juetian was sitting in the pavilion drinking tea. Gong Yu sat at the side and played the zither. The pleasant sound of the zither floated in the air, very pleasing to the ear. As expected of a talented woman, Gong Yu was well versed in all kinds of martial arts. Such a woman was indeed a very good marriage partner. However, Yi Juetian did not feel anything from the beginning to the end. His entire mind was focused on Yi. Gong Yu, who was playing the zither, could feel that although Yi Juetian was faking it with her, Yi Juetian was still thinking about the woodshed. Why? Why can't I, Gong Yu, compare to a lowly servant? I can play the zither and pour water for you. In the future, I can even give birth to a child and help you in your career. But what can that Yi give you? Apart from acting coquettishly, what else was there to do? Little Tian. Yi Yuanqing shouted out. This fellow seems to have become more mature, unlike how he used to be in the Yi family. Men could only mature after experiencing love. Second sister, Yi Juetian immediately stood up. He was very excited. Gong Yu, who was at the side, also stopped playing her zither, and respectfully stood behind Yi Juetian. When Yi Yuanqing walked over, Gong Yu obediently greeted, sister-in-law, second sister. Yi Yuanqing looked at Gong Yu and felt that the two of them were quite compatible. It was a good thing to see little Tian get married. Lil, Tian, you've changed from a boy to a man now, right? Yi Yuanqing couldn't help but tease and pat Yi Juetian's shoulder. Yi Yuanqing was a general. When he was at the border, he was surrounded by men. Hence, he sometimes spoke like a man. But in front of her big brother, she still acted like a daughter and was very respectful. Yi Juetian laughed dryly. There is indeed such a thing where a boy becomes a man, but that was an accident. Gong Yu blushed. She didn't expect her second sister to be so bold. Qian Yuqing tugged at Yi Yuanqing, indicating that he was a bit dirty now. I'll go get some water for sister-in-law and second sister. Gong Yu jogged away, her face red from being teased. After Gong Yu left, Yi Yuanqing chuckled and said, not bad, little Tian is very good at picking up girls. It hasn't been long since we last met and he has already gotten himself a beauty. Second big sister, don't laugh at me anymore, Gong Yu and I are just pretending, that's all. Yi Juetian let out a long sigh. Sister-in-law knew about his situation, so there was nothing for Yi Juetian to hide. Qian Yuqing sighed softly. Yi Yuanqing glanced at his sister-in-law, confused. Little Tian, what's wrong with you? You bullied her, and you're still pretending? Second big sister, this matter is a long story. The person I like is someone else. That palace maid? Yi Yuanqing asked in a deep voice. Yes. Then do you know that the palace maid harmed Auntie Lu? Yi Yuanqing questioned. Yi Juetian raised his head, looked at Yi Yuanqing, and said firmly, second sister, Yi will definitely not do that kind of thing. I dare to use my life to guarantee it. Little Tian, then what do you want to do now? Yi Yuanqing asked in a low voice. Yi Juetian said helplessly, I can only marry Gong Yu, only then will I be able to protect Yi's life. Big brother promised me this. No wonder big brother didn't kill that palace maid, so it turns out that he had an agreement with little Tian. After all, framing Auntie Lu, it was already a miracle that the palace maid didn't die. Little Tian, right now, Huang Feidi is dead. Yi Yuanqing said in a low voice. What? Dead? Yi Juetian cried out in surprise. I originally wanted to help Yi clear her name, but this Huang Feidi actually died. Right now, who can clear Yi's name? There's no one left. Yi will have to bear the crime of murdering her mother for the rest of her life. Yi Juetian held onto his forehead with both of his hands, appearing to be in great pain. How did he die? It was Big Brother who ordered people to go and kill him. Yi Yuanqing said lightly. The death of such a big emperor, when spoken like this, made it seem as if it was very normal, and there was no need to take it to heart at all. Huang Feidi deserved to die. Yi Juetian didn't have any thoughts about it, but right now, the dead can't testify. At this time, Gong Yu walked over while carrying a cup of tea. Yi Yuanqing revealed a gentle smile. He suddenly felt that this woman was rather pitiful, and he could clearly feel that she liked little Tian. However, little Tian liked another woman, and the most painful thing in life was none other than the person you liked falling in love with someone else. Juetian, sister-in-law, second sister, have some tea. Gong Yu shouted respectfully and poured more tea for the three of them. Yi Yuanqing could only smile and say, sister-in-law is very virtuous. Second sister, you must be joking, I am just doing what I should do. Gong Yu said with a slight smile. If it wasn't for little Tian liking another woman, Yi Yuanqing would feel that Gong Yu was very compatible with little Tian. However, Yi Yuanqing was also very curious about that exactly what kind of woman could make little Tian so infatuated with her. The four sat together and chatted for a while, and after that, Yi Yuanqing decided to go and take a look at that After walking out of the bedroom, Yi Yuanqing said lightly, sister-in-law, bring me to take a look at that Are you really going? And, I want to see what kind of person she is, so that I can have an estimate in my heart. Yi Yuanqing wanted to see why this was able to obtain little Tian's trust, and whether or not she was Huang Feidi's secret agent. Qian Yuqing nodded her head, and the two of them walked towards the woodshed. During the day, the door of the woodshed was wide open. Before Qian Yuqing and Yi Yuanqing even walked into the woodshed, they heard a burst of ear-piercing cheers, and the sound of whips could also be heard. This lowly servant girl actually likes Lord Yi. Even in her dreams, she calls out Lord Ye's name. Why don't you take a look at your own status? Is Lord Yi someone you can climb up to? Ugly duckling, do you want to eat Dragon King meat? You think that just because you look good, you can dream of being a princess? Watch how I beat you to death, lowly servant girl. Pa, 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 Qian Yuqing's expression sunk, and she hurriedly ran inside, and Yi Yuanqing also hurriedly followed after her. The scene that appeared in front of them caused Qian Yuqing and Yi Yuanqing's expression to sink. 4 or 5 palace maids surrounded a palace maid and mocked and ridiculed her, and that palace maid was even curled up, allowing one of the palace maids to whip her. Although they were all ordinary people, but when they whipped a human body, that kind of pain was still very unbearable. Furthermore, even her clothes were torn. The degree of savageness was enough to make one's hair stand up in anger. What are you doing? Qian Yuqing shouted coldly. These palace maids were originally sent here because they committed crimes, so they were all not good women, and their jealousy was very strong. Actually, this was already not the first time that Yi was bullied, but Yi had always been enduring it, and was still waiting for Yi Juetian to give her an explanation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1145. Empress, good luck. The palace maids immediately kneeled down in fear. Yi slightly raised her head and looked towards Qian Yuqing. Yi had a good impression of Qian Yuqing. She used all of her strength to bow towards Qian Yuqing. That action of hers made one's heart ache. Yi Yuanqing could already feel that the palace maid who was beaten up was Yi. She is indeed beautiful, no wonder little Tian likes her. But, why was she beaten up like this? What happened? Qian Yuqing questioned coldly. The palace maids looked at each other and didn't know how to answer. However, Yi said weakly, Empress, I didn't do my job well, that's why I was punished. The palace maids let out a breath. At least you know how to plead for us, if not I will beat you to death. Qian Yuqing was very angry. She stretched out her palm and waved it. Pa pa pa. The palace maids immediately felt pain on their faces as they were slapped away. They fell to the side and wailed. Scram! Qian Yuqing shouted coldly. The palace maids endured the pain and kneeled down. Empress, please spare us. Scram! The palace maids were delighted. However, they didn't expect that Yi would actually have the Empress backing her up. Her background is so big. It seems like I have to be more careful in the future. The palace maids left obediently. Qian Yuqing walked to the front of Yi and helped the pitiful Yi up. Are you all right? Empress, I am fine. Yi squeezed out a trace of a smile. Qian Yuqing directly rolled up Yi's sleeves. The red scars on Yi's sleeves were very shocking. The scars on Yi's shoulders were the same. Qian Yuqing directly lifted up Yi's clothes, and on Yi's fair back, sinister wounds could be seen. Qian Yuqing felt that I should have killed those palace maids just now. They are actually so vicious. Yi Yuanqing stood at the side and didn't speak. However, her eyebrows were tightly wrinkled. I never expected that the girl that little Tian likes would actually be abused here. Yi. Qian Yuqing couldn't bear to see Yi like this. She decided to have a good talk with Yi tonight. Yi is definitely not a spy. If I didn't come today, Yi might have been beaten to death by those palace maids. I am really fine. Yi squeezed out a gentle smile and placed down Yi's clothes. Qian Yuqing released a white glow and instantly healed Yi's injuries. You've suffered. Hearing those 3 words, the grievances in Yi's heart immediately gushed out. She wasn't afraid of being beaten by others, and she wasn't afraid of being mocked by others, but she was afraid of being cared for by others. Tears flowed down from Yi's exquisite face. Qian Yuqing's heart ached for Yi too, and she lightly hugged onto Yi. All right, don't cry anymore. Yi Yuanqing was now a little doubtful. Was such a woman a spy? In that case, they were either too good at acting, using their lives to be spies, or they were wrongly accused. But looking at the current situation, it did seem that he was wronged. If he didn't come today, it would be normal for him to be beaten to death. How could she have predicted his return? Yi, let's go. Don't wait any longer. Qian Yuqing said softly. If you continue to wait like this, you will lose your life. Yi shook her head and whispered, Empress, I'm not leaving. Why? If you continue like this, something bad will happen. I also don't wish to see the Empress being punished because of my matter. I am guilty, these punishments are what I deserve. In actuality, Yi didn't wish for others to be harmed because of her matter. If I were to be let go by the Empress, the Emperor would definitely hold me accountable. For me, it isn't worth it. Furthermore, I am still waiting for an explanation. Even if I have to wait till the end of time, I still want to wait for this explanation. You silly girl, why bother? Qian Yuqing lightly stroked onto Yi's hair. Can't you think for yourself? At this moment, Yi Yuanqing, who was standing at the side, asked, Yi, do you really like Xiao Tian? Yi raised her head and looked towards Yi Yuanqing. Her gaze was filled with doubt. I am Yi Juetian's second sister. Yi Yuanqing added. So it is Ye's second sister. Yi immediately felt afraid. Perhaps it was because of her big brother, Yi Hua. Yi felt that this second sister of hers is probably not that easy to talk to. Qian Yuqing could sense that Yi's body was trembling. Seems like Yi is truly afraid of Yi Hua. Furthermore, upon hearing that Yi is Yi Hua's little sister, Yi immediately thought that Yi is the same as Yi Hua. Yi, don't be afraid. Qian Yuqing's words were still useful. In this kind of palace, the only person that Yi could trust was Qian Yuqing. In Yi's heart, she didn't know if she should trust Yi Juetian or not. Yi Yuanqing sighed in his heart, not knowing what to say. Yi only managed to calm herself down after a long while. Just now, her emotions were a bit big. After all, Yi was also an ordinary person. and even if she wasn't made of iron, she still had emotions. Empress, is Ye going to get married soon? Yi asked in a low voice, her disappointment was clear to see. Qian Yuqing sighed lightly, yes, very soon. Yi bit her lips tightly, oh. Yi, take it slow, don't do anything foolish, understand? I will think of a way for you. Qian Yuqing warned. She was afraid that Yi would take things too hard, and if that happened, all the things that Xiao Tian did would be wasted. Looking at Yi's lifeless look, Qian Yuqing wanted to tell Yi that in actuality, Xiao Tian got married in order to save your life. However, Qian Yuqing was afraid that if she were to tell Yi about this matter, Yi would have even more terrifying thoughts, and by then, it would be even more troublesome. However, if I don't tell Yi about this matter, am I going to let Yi continue to be sad? I am truly in a dilemma. Empress, don't worry, I won't do anything foolish, don't go. Yi didn't finish her words, but Qian Yuqing knew what Yi wanted to say. On this matter, it was very hard for Yi Hua to change his mind. After all, this matter was related to his mother, and it could be counted as touching Yi Hua's reverse scale. Qian Yuqing tidied up Yi's clothes, then said coldly towards the woodshed, if you all dare to bully people again. Kill without mercy. No one will be able to save you all. When the palace maids heard that, they trembled. It wasn't good for Qian Yuqing to stay for too long. If Yi Hua heard what she said, he would definitely scold her again. Right now, Yi Hua's mood wasn't good to begin with. After walking out of the woodshed, Qian Yuqing asked, Yuan Qing, do you feel that Yi looks like a spy? Doesn't look like one. Yi Yuanqing shook his head. This was based on a woman's intuition, because right now, he was only looking at the surface. However, Yi Hua is certain. Yi Yuanqing said lightly, after all, Yi's suspicion is the biggest, and it is an iron-like fact that Yi wasted the spiritual spring. That's right, if Yi didn't waste the spiritual spring, this might not have happened. Qian Yuqing let out a light sigh. On one hand, she was worried about her mother, and on the other hand, she was worried about Yi. Could it be that there is no way to satisfy both sides? Inside the woodshed, Yi sat on the stone bench at the side, took out the lollipop that Yi Zizi gave to her, and held it in her mouth. End of this chapter. Chapter 1146. Feeling that special sweetness, Yi felt comfortable in her heart. Then, she wrapped it up in paper and ate it when she was in a bad mood. However, when she thought about how Ye was about to get married, Yi felt uncomfortable. It has been so long, why isn't there a single explanation? Even if it's just a simple explanation, I don't want much, I just want a sentence. Yi slightly raised her head and looked at the sky above the palace. The sky was no longer as blue as before. Qian Yuqing and Yi Yuanqing arrived at Lu Jing's bedroom and discovered that Yi Hua was discussing something with his mother. Aunt Lu. Yi Yuanqing called out sweetly. Yuanqing is here, quickly let Aunt Lu take a look. Lu Jing's mood was very good as she smiled towards Yi Yuanqing. Yi Yuanqing walked to Lu Jing's side and held on to Lu Jing's hand. Aunt Lu, you are much prettier than before. Then, wasn't Aunt Lu beautiful before? Lu Jing asked back. Yi Yuanqing didn't know what to say. This reaction caused Lu Jing to laugh. Aunt Lu, you are teasing Yuanqing again. Yi Yuanqing acted coquettishly. Lu Jing lightly caressed Yi Yuanqing's hair. At this moment, 3 figures appeared at the door. Qingye, Donghuang Baizhi, and Qing Yutong could be seen slowly walking in. It had been a few days since Yi Hua last talked to Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi. Right now, no one was talking to each other. Mother. The 3 respectfully called out. Sister-in-law is here. Yi Yuanqing smiled happily. Although she had never seen Qing Yutong before, she had heard about her. Qing Yutong looked at Yi Yuanqing with a dumbfounded look on her face. Could this be brother-in-law's concubine again? She looks quite pretty. Brother-in-law finally understands and knows how to expand his harem. Yutong, this is Yi Hua's sister. Qingye introduced, not letting her sister think too much. Qing Yutong's mouth twitched. So she is brother-in-law's sister, my God. I was thinking too much just now. What a scary thought. Hello, sister-in-law. Hello, sister-in-law. Yi Yuanqing could feel that Qing Yutong's personality was very easy to get along with. However, Yi Yuanqing also felt that Big Brother seemed to have quarreled with the two sisters-in-law. Big Brother didn't even bother to look at them. Lu Jing was helpless. This son of mine just wants face so much. He just had to coax his wife a little. It was a very simple matter, but the more he coaxed her, the more complicated it became. Lu Jing laughed lightly. Yehua, call Lil, Tian and Gong Yu over. After all, this is also their matter. Yehua nodded his head, then sent a sound transmission to Yi Juetian to bring Gong Yu over. What is it, mother? Qian Yuqing curiously asked. Yehua said faintly, I plan to let them get married as soon as possible. Everyone was a little confused. Wasn't it supposed to be 2 months later? Why was it suddenly brought forward? Yehua knew that these people were puzzled, and he said gravely, recently, a lot of bad things have happened, and I plan to wash away the bad things that have happened. I hope that there will be a good omen. Everyone finally understood what Yehua was planning to do. Thinking about it, it made sense. Too many bad things had happened recently, and it was a good choice to wash away the bad news. They were going to get married anyway, so it didn't matter if they got married earlier. However, Qian Yuqing was worried about Yi Juetian and Gong Yu quickly appeared, and the first thing they did was respectfully greet them. Little Tian. Yehua called out lightly. Big Brother, do you have any instructions for me? Big Brother plans to let you and Gong Yu get married as soon as possible, and the time will be 7 days later. Yehua said lightly. He hoped that this would bring him a bit of good luck. After all, this was a happy occasion. After Gong Yu heard this, she felt joyous in her heart. Only by getting married as soon as possible would the stone in my heart be at ease. However, after Yi Juetian heard this, he instantly became absent-minded. Although he knew that the wedding was going to be completed soon, he wasn't prepared at all in his heart. Big Brother, isn't it a bit too hasty? Yi Juetian said in a soft voice. You don't have to worry about this matter, Big Brother will arrange it for you. Yehua said faintly. Now that my little brother has gotten married, I will be able to put my heart at ease and deal with other matters. Yi Juetian didn't say anything. Little Tian, in the future, you will be a man with a wife, so you have to become more sensible, do you understand? Take good care of Gong Yu. Lu Jing said with a slight smile, feeling gratified in her heart. Her youngest son's marriage has finally been settled. Yi Juetian was still able to say, all right, mother, I understand, I will take good care of Gong Yu. Gong Yu stood at the side, looking very shy, just like a little wife. Gong Yu wasn't faking it, she was indeed very happy. I still have some matters to attend to, mother, I will be leaving first. Yehua stood up and said faintly, seemingly not wanting to sit in the same room as Qingye and Donghuang Baiji. Lu Jing wrinkled her brows. Yehua, why are you in such a rush? Eat at mother's place, the two of you, don't leave, accompany this old mother to eat. Everyone knew what Lu Jing's intention was. I have already said it, is Yehua not going to accompany mother to eat? That's impossible. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji felt wronged in their hearts. It was clearly you who was in the wrong first, and yet, you are still giving us that attitude right now, and you are even ignoring us. Alright, let's see who can last longer. The dishes were all prepared by Blood Demon, the head chef, and all of the dishes were Yehua's favorite dishes, such as crayfish, crab. The delightful aroma immediately pervaded the entire room. Brother-in-law, for little Tian's big wedding, who are we going to invite over? We have to make it more lively. Qing Yutong asked curiously. Yehua had long thought about this, and he said faintly, the big shots from all of the surrounding powers, to be more precise, the big shots from the entire north. Wah, to make it so big? Qing Yutong felt that this is fun. Brother-in-law is probably trying to show off his strength, right? Qing Yutong indeed understood Yi Hua. Yi Hua indeed wants to show off his strength and let the entire north know that Wushu Empire is invincible. Yi Hua nodded his head. When the time comes, the two of you should be more dignified. This sentence was clearly said to Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi. It's fine to quarrel, but when the day comes, remember your identity and don't lose face for me. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi still don't know what Yi Hua meant. This fellow not only wants to show off his strength, he also wants to show off his women. He is simply born to act cool. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi knew what was more important. When the time comes, all of the big shots from the entire north will be present. No matter how much they quarrel, they will still have to give Yi Hua face. Yuqing, what's wrong? Yi Hua asked lightly. He noticed that Qian Yuqing's expression was a bit abnormal. Qian Yuqing smiled slightly. It's nothing. In actuality, Qian Yuqing was thinking, when the time comes, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, Qingye suddenly said, Yuqing is thinking, when are you going to give her a wedding? This sentence of hers is very profound. Yi Hua immediately understood what Qingye was trying to say. You are blaming me for not giving you a wedding again. Isn't it just a ceremony? If these women want to mention it once a year, then I will just drag it on for a year. End of this chapter. Chapter 1147. At this time, Lu Jing also said, Yehua, no matter how busy you are, you still have to think about your wife, do you understand? With Granny speaking up for them, Qingye and the others were happy in their hearts. It is fortunate that we have Granny to help us. Yi Hua said in a low voice, Mother, I understand. After I am done with this matter, I will marry them. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi snorted in their hearts. What kind of tone is this? It's as if he's very unwilling. Act tough, King Yi, we still haven't agreed to it. Lu Jing was also helping her son and daughter-in-law to ease the tension between them. Husband and wife are fighting on the bed, right? Look. You agreed to get married. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi's expressions became much worse. After Yi Hua finished eating, he went to look for absolute heaven to see if there was any progress. Soon after, Yi Hua once again held a mobilization meeting and invited all of the powers in the north. Those who gave him face would come. Not giving me face, hee. Of course, the wedding invitations were sent out by a group of subordinates. Although the time was relatively short, it was still within the scope of control. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi still joined the group to help out, but the Cold War still continued, and Qing Yutong and Qian Yuqing were also unable to do anything about it. Yi Juetian was vexed, but Gong Yu was happy. After all, she was about to marry into the Yi family. At that time, he would be a member of the Yi family. In the woodshed, no one dared to bully Yi anymore. These palace maids were not fools. They knew that Yi was protected by the Empress. If they continued to bully her, they would be courting death. At this time, several palace maids gathered together to discuss the matter of Lord Yi, which was also the latest news. Have you heard? Lord Ye's wedding date has been brought forward. Of course I know. It was supposed to be a few months, but it was suddenly postponed to a few days later. I'm so envious. To be able to marry a man like Prince Yi, he's so handsome, that's right. Prince Yi and His Majesty are blood-related brothers. They look exactly the same. Sleeping with one is equivalent to sleeping with two. You coquettish hussy. Yi carried her dinner and was just about to enter when she heard the news about Yi Juetian. She stopped in her tracks. When Yi heard that Ye's wedding date had been brought forward a few days later, she was completely stupefied, and the rice bowl in her hand fell to the ground. This attracted the attention of the palace maids inside. The palace maids walked out one after another, and when they saw Yi, who was in a daze, they were already used to it. This woman was so infatuated that it felt like she was sick. However, she had the support of the Empress. The palace maid hurriedly helped Yi tidy up and even warmly invited Yi into the room. Yi's mind was filled with the news of Ye's upcoming marriage. On this day, Yi didn't know how she got through it. She felt like her inner world had completely collapsed. Although I knew that this day would come, but when it really came, I didn't know what to do. Panic, all kinds of emotions pervaded Yi's mind. However, wasn't it the same for Yi Juetian as well? They were clearly in the same palace, yet, it was hard for them to meet each other. Night fell. Yi got up from the bed. Since Yi didn't come and look for me, then I will go and look for Yi. Why? Why didn't you come and meet me? Even if you just let someone pass a word to me, it would be fine. After putting on her clothes, Yi opened the door and walked out, appearing to be very careful. But, where is Ye? The imperial palace is so big, where am I going to find him? Yi couldn't care less. If she didn't find Ye, she would even have the heart to die. If Ye didn't want him anymore, then what was the point of him staying in this world? Walking in the dark and gloomy imperial palace, Yi felt so unfamiliar and scary. The walls were clearly not very tall, yet they separated Yi and Ye. Why did you come out? A voice rang out behind Yi. Yi's heart sunk. I just came out and I am going to be caught. Suddenly turning her head around, Yi saw a little girl. Isn't this the little girl that gave me a candy that day? It's you. Yi let out a breath. I feel that this little girl doesn't have any ill intentions. The little girl that came was precisely Yi Zizi. In actuality, Yi Zizi also came to look for Yi. Yi Zizi thought to herself that the lollipop should have been finished by Yi, right? Seeing that Yi is pitiful, I decided to give you another lollipop. In the end, I didn't expect that Yi would sneak out. Don't you know that you will die if you sneak out like this? Yi Zizi said while shouting the lollipop. Yi lightly bit onto her lips. She knew the rules of the woodshed. Without the orders of a female official, sneaking out of the woodshed was a crime. Yi Zizi let out a light sigh. This woman is truly pitiful. Where do you want to go? Yi Zizi asked curiously. I want to go look for Yi. Yi didn't know what to do and directly set out her purpose. Yi Zizi asked confusedly, Yi Juetian. Oh, why are you looking for him? I want to ask him. Yi said in a low voice, appearing to be in a lot of pain. Yi Zizi let out a light sigh. Do you know where Yi Juetian's bedroom is? I don't know. You are really stupid, just swaggering around like this. If you get caught, you will be dead for sure. Yi Zizi shook her head. This woman is really stupid, she doesn't even know how to plan properly before coming out. However, Yi Zizi also knew why Yi was in a hurry to look for Yi Juetian. After all, the news of the marriage had already spread, and Yi was anxious. Should I help her or not? Looking at such a pitiful woman, Yi Zizi let out a breath. I will bring you there. Really? Will it be inconvenient? Yi felt happy in her heart, but she still had to think for Yi Zizi's sake. Don't let Yi Zizi get punished because of me. What's inconvenient about it? Aren't you just saying a few words? Yi Zizi asked. And, just asking a few words. Alright, I, Yi Zizi, have never done a good deed before, so I will do a good deed today. Yi Zizi grabbed onto Yi's hand and instantly disappeared from the spot. Within Yi Juetian's bedroom, there were only a few palace maids on duty. However, those few palace maids immediately became strange, as if they were fixed in place. Yi Juetian and Gong Yu who were in the room frowned, and Gong Yu came out from her own room. The two looked at each other. It's already so late, who wants to come and cause trouble? Right now, Yi appeared at the bottom of the stairs outside the door, and Yi Zizi stood guard for her. Since I have already helped, I might as well help till the end. Yi. Yi who was outside lightly called out. Yi Juetian who was in the room was startled, while Gong Yu tightly wrinkled her brows. I never expected that the one who came was actually Yi. This damnable woman. I am going to get married soon. Why does she still have to come and cause trouble? Is she trying to cause trouble? Gong Yu looked towards Yi Juetian and saw that Yi Juetian had a joyous look on his face and was about to rush out. Gong Yu held on to the excited Yi Juetian, and Yi Juetian turned around with a puzzled expression. You can't go out right now. If you go out, you will be harming Yi. Gong Yu said gravely. Yi Juetian's excited look was instantly defeated by reality. That's right, end of this chapter. Chapter 1148. I can't go out. If Big Brother hears about this and I meet with Yi again, then Big Brother, everything that I have done will be in vain. However, I really want to go out, look at Yi, hug her tightly, and tell her how much I miss you, that me and Gong Yu getting married is all for you. As long as you can live, I am willing to do anything. Yay! Yi called out once again. Why is Ye ignoring me? You didn't come, but I came, yet I closed the door and refused to see you. Could it be that Ye really doesn't like me anymore? That can't be. Ye likes me, he said it before. Hearing Yi's call, Yi Juetian's brain transmitted the signal to rush out. Hug the woman I love and tell her all of your feelings. However, Yi Juetian's rationality told him that the consequences of rushing out would be very severe. Right now, the wedding invitations had already been sent out. If anything were to happen, the entire Wushu Empire's face would be thrown away. Not only Big Brother would be humiliated, everyone would be humiliated as well. Juetian, don't be rash, do you want to kill Yi? Gong Yu shouted lightly, stopping the two from meeting. Yi Juetian stopped moving, he was completely defeated by reality. What should I do, what should I do? Yi Juetian mumbled. He discovered that he was so useless, he didn't even dare to push open the door, as if the weight of the door was not something that he could push open at all. Gong Yu bit her lips tightly. You have to quickly let Yi go back. If Yi is discovered, it will be even more dangerous. Yi Juetian felt that what Gong Yu said was right. Only by obediently staying in the woodshed would Yi be able to keep her life. Yay! Yi called out for the third time, her tone becoming more and more miserable each time. Yi. Yi Juetian called out the name in his heart. Yi, who was standing outside the door, was delighted, seemingly wanting to rush up the stairs, push open the door, and fiercely hug Ye. I don't care what you did in the past, as long as you talk to me, don't ignore me. However, Yi Juetian said gravely, don't move. Yi, who was raising her legs, stopped and looked at the double doors above her head, as well as the human figure. Ye is right there, and the human figure at the side should be Gong Yu, right? Right when Yi was about to speak, Yi Juetian said, Yi, go back, don't come again. Yi, whose face was filled with joy, was stunned. Her entire body trembled, and she felt her ears ringing. Ye actually told her to leave. How could this be? Ye, I'm here to see you. It's me, Yi, can you come out? Yi squeezed out a smile and smiled at the figure. This smile was heartbreaking. At the very least, Yi Zizi, who was standing not far away, felt uncomfortable when she saw it. Yi Juetian tightly clenched his fists, while Gong Yu held onto Yi Juetian's hand, preventing him from rushing out. Go back and stay in the woodshed, Yi Juetian said in a low voice. Yi did not understand. Why was she still unwilling to take a look even though she was here? Ye, do you not like me anymore? Yi asked with a desolate tone. At this moment, the cold wind was howling, and Yi's silhouette seemed so frail and weak. Yi Zizi gently waved her hand and stopped the cold wind. A struggling expression appeared on Yi Juetian's face. Idiot, how could I not like you? As long as you are alive, I will continue to like you. If you are dead, who am I going to like? Yi, I like you. Then, why aren't you willing to come out and see me? Yi, go back, you are not safe right now. Yi Juetian said gravely. There are so many spies in the palace, and if Big Brother hears about this, it would be troublesome. Yi did not cry, nor did she make a fuss. She just looked at the two figures in the room and felt heartache. She said that she likes me, yet she isn't willing to see me. Is this really love? This is no longer love, this kind of love has already lost its meaning. If you want me to go back to the woodshed, then I will go back. Yi will still choose to listen to you, even if you don't like Yi anymore. Carrying disappointment, Yi turned around and left. Gong Yu let out a breath. This damned woman, I almost let them meet. Luckily, Yi Juetian did not rush out. No. If this Yi doesn't die, I won't be able to have a day of peace. I have to think of a way. Juetian, things will get better in the future. As long as mother's illness is cured, Big Brother won't blame Yi. At that time, you can just plead for Yi, and Yi will be fine. Gong Yu consoled Yi attentively, acting as a kind-hearted woman. Yi Juetian felt that what Gong Yu said was right, as long as mother's illness is cured, Big Brother's hostility towards Yi should lessen a bit. Gong Yu, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know what to do. Yi Juetian thanked sincerely. Gong Yu smiled tenderly. Juetian, is there a need to be so courteous between us? After hearing that, Yi Juetian felt very unnatural. I and Gong Yu have already gotten intimate with each other, and have already done the deed of husband and wife. I can only hope that these days will be over soon. A cold light flashed past Gong Yu's eyes, and she seemed to have an idea. On the other side, Yi Zizi brought Yi back to the woodshed. It's fine, I will listen to Ye's words and properly stay here. Yi forced out a smile, but who knew how much pain she was feeling in her heart. Yi Zizi did not say anything and took out a lollipop. The one you gave me last time, I haven't finished eating it yet. Yi took out the lollipop and showed it to Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi didn't expect that Yi would eat a lollipop like this and became speechless. Thank you for today's matter, if you need any help, just call for me. Yi was very grateful towards Yi Zizi. There are still good people in the palace. I reckon that even Yi Zizi didn't expect that there would be someone who would call her a good person. Yi Zizi laughed lightly. If I can't even solve the problem myself, what's the point of calling for you? I will be leaving first then. Yi Zizi said faintly. Without waiting for Yi to say anything, Yi Zizi disappeared from where she was. After Yi Zizi left, Yi slowly sat on the bed and looked at the flickering oil lamp. No matter what, I will be able to hear Ye's voice. He said that he likes me, and that is enough. Right now, Yi was hypnotizing herself. She would rather believe that Yi Juetian likes me than believe in anything else. Yi sat on the bed for a very very long time and thought for a very long time. Yi. A voice suddenly rang out. Yi looked towards the corner of the room and cried out in surprise, Gong Yu. Yi. Gong Yu walked forward and lightly hugged onto Yi. Yi revealed a moved look on her face as she hugged onto Gong Yu tightly. However, Gong Yu's gaze was not moved, instead, it was filled with a sinister meaning. Yi, it's fine, it will be fine in the future. Gong Yu consoled Yi lightly. If it was possible, I would make Yi die without a burial ground right now. However, if she killed Yi, Big Brother Emperor would definitely investigate this matter. The gains would not make up for the losses. Yi was the one who couldn't stand being consoled by others the most. At this moment, she couldn't hold it in any longer, and her tears fell like rain. End of this chapter. Chapter 1149. Why doesn't Ye even want to see me? Why, Gong Yu? Gong Yu said gravely, Yi, originally, I didn't plan to tell you about this matter, but looking at how painful you two are, I can't bear to see you two. What matter? Yi, Big Brother Emperor thinks that you are a spy. You intentionally wasted Empress Dowager's medicine. Gong Yu said in a low voice as she tightly held onto Yi's hand, seemingly wanting Yi to not take this matter to heart. However, wasn't this also a kind of hint? It was hinting that Yi Juetian didn't want to see you because of this. No. I'm not a spy, Gong Yu, you have to believe me, I'm not a spy. Yi immediately became flustered, that pleading gaze of hers seemed to have caught onto the last straw. Gong Yu said in a low voice, Yi, I believe you, you are such a kind girl, how could you possibly be a spy, but, Ye doesn't believe me. Yi asked nervously. Yi, This matter is related to Ju Tian's mother, you should understand, because Big Brother Emperor has evidence. Yi was a bit at a loss as she held onto her head and said in a low voice, I'm not a spy. I really am not a spy. I did waste Empress Dowager's medicine, but I really am not a spy. Yi, don't be like this, you will make my heart ache. Gong Yu lightly hugged onto Yi and revealed a complacent smile on her face. Gong Yu, what should I do? Just what should I do? Gong Yu revealed an expression that seemed like she wanted to say something, but didn't know how to say it. After seeing that, Yi hurriedly asked, Gong Yu, please tell me, what should I do? I don't want Ye to misunderstand me, anyone can do it, but I don't want Ye to misunderstand me. Yi, as long as Big Brother Emperor believes you, everyone will believe you. I will go and look for Big Brother Emperor then. Yi, even I can't see Big Brother Emperor, if you go and look for him, aren't you just courting death? What should I do then, is there any way to see Big Brother Emperor? Yi asked anxiously. Gong Yu continued, Yi, the reason why I don't want to say is because it is very dangerous, you know? It's fine. No matter how dangerous it is, I will go and explain myself, Yi said firmly. She could not let Ye think that she was a spy. Gong Yu sighed softly, in a few days, it will be my and Ju Tian's wedding. At that time, Big Brother Emperor and the bosses of the various powers will all be present. This is also your best opportunity. Big Brother Emperor will definitely not kill you on that day, and you will have the opportunity to explain yourself. If Yi was a little smarter, she would know that this was a trap. This was no longer a wedding. Instead, it was slapping Yi Hua's face. And Gong Yu wanted to kill him with a borrowed knife. At this moment, Yi only wanted to explain that she wasn't a spy. She didn't even think that Gong Yu would harm her because such an excuse would make sense. Because only by making a big deal out of this matter would they take it seriously. I will do that for your wedding. Yi hesitated for a moment. Yi seemed to be thinking of others. Gong Yu smiled faintly and said, Yi, your innocence is more important than my wedding. Ju Tian and I will be very happy if you clear your innocence. Yi was very touched and hugged onto Gong Yu's body tightly. Gong Yu, you are too good to me, I will definitely remember you. Fool. Gong Yu said lightly, and a sinister smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. You are a fool, when the time comes, I will see how you die. Yi, but I still want you to understand one thing, because of you, Ju Tian is in a very dangerous situation. Gong Yu's words were another kind of hint. If you don't die, Ju Tian will never be safe in his entire life. Yi didn't understand the meaning behind Gong Yu's words, but she knew that her existence was putting Ye in a difficult position, or in danger, and even more people would be implicated. I am just like a jinx, no matter where I go, I will always be unwelcomed, and I will always do the wrong things. If I can, I really want to die. Since I have chosen to explain myself on that day, if I can't explain myself clearly, then I will have already died. I am not a spy. Gong Yu, do you have that medicine? Yi asked in a low voice. Gong Yu was happy. I didn't expect that Yi would be stupid to such an extent. However, this is good as well, at least I am able to act according to my plan. Yi, what did you say? Gong Yu feigned ignorance and asked. It's the kind of medicine that will kill you. Yi was very calm right now. If death is able to prove my innocence, I will not hesitate to do so. At the very least, in Ye's heart, I am not a spy, I am that stupid and foolish woman. Gong Yu pretended to be shocked. Yi, are you crazy? I don't have that kind of medicine. Gong Yu. Yi called out lightly, and soon after, she knelt in front of Gong Yu. This caused Gong Yu to feel very satisfied. Even a lowly servant like you dares to snatch a man from me, Gong Yu? I will make sure that you don't even know how you died. Yi, what are you doing? Hurry up and get up. Gong Yu hurriedly went to help her up, but Yi refused to get up. Gong Yu, I beg you, I know you have it, just give it to me. Of course, Gong Yu wouldn't give it to him directly. At the very least, she had to put on an act and say a few polite words. This won't do. If other people were to find out that I gave you the medicine, Gong Yu, I swear that I won't say a word about what we've said tonight, even if I die. Gong Yu said seriously, it's not that I don't believe you, but if something happens to you, what will happen to Zhu Tian? Gong Yu, if something really happens to me, help me take good care of Zhu Tian. I don't want to be a despicable person in Zhu Tian's heart, I beg of you. After speaking, Yi actually started kowtowing. However, Gong Yu did not stop Yi immediately. She enjoyed Yi's kowtow very much. It was too comfortable. No. I'll give it to you, okay? After having enough fun, Gong Yu put on a look of reluctance. However, Yi squeezed out a smile and said, "Thank you, Gong Yu." Gong Yu took out a sparkling and translucent pill and said in a deep voice, "This pill can make you feel no pain." However, Gong Yu was thinking in her mind. This is the soul-severing pill. After eating it, I will disappear into thin air, and even my soul will disappear into thin air. I will completely disappear from this world, and I won't even have an afterlife. Yi gently took the pill and placed it in her palm, feeling the coldness of the pill. Gong Yu, thank you very much, you have helped me too much. Gong Yu patted onto Yi's shoulder, "Yi, I will always help you, and when the time comes, I will make arrangements for you." Alright. Yi nodded her head and tightly held onto the pill. "Yi, it is already very late, I will be leaving first. If I were to be discovered by someone, it would be hard for me to absolve myself from the blame. Gong Yu, remember my words, take good care of Ye. Fool, nothing will happen to you." Gong Yu said with a slight smile, then disappeared from the room. End of this chapter. Chapter 1150. Yi sat on the bed. She didn't expect that her big brother, the Emperor, thought that she was a spy. Ye also knew. No wonder Ye had been ignoring him during this period of time. Just now, she also closed the door and refused to see him. So it was because of this. If it wasn't for Gong Yu, he wouldn't have known. Gong Yu was really his benefactor. If he could explain it clearly, he would definitely repay Gong Yu well. Yi was simply courting death by doing this. On the day of the wedding, the people who came were all influential figures in the north. Yi Hua also attached great importance to this matter, and was prepared to show off for a while. Yet, Yu suddenly came out to cause trouble. Wouldn't that be slapping Yi Hua's face in front of everyone? With Yi Hua's temper, it was impossible for him to live. Gong Yu took advantage of this and sent Yi to her death. Therefore, on that day, regardless of whether Yi explained clearly or not, she was dead. That was destined. However, Yi was still foolishly obedient. She didn't tell anyone about this, not even Qian Yuqing. Qian Yuqing was here to tell him not to do anything rash. However, Qian Yuqing underestimated Yi's determination. Because I am being wrongly accused, Yi is unable to bear being wrongly accused like this, especially when even Ye doesn't believe me, therefore, he had to explain it clearly. Time passed quickly. The entire Voidless Empire was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. It was bustling with noise and excitement as if it was the new year. Red lanterns were hung all over the streets, which was also a symbol of blessing. However, inside the palace, there was a sea of joy. Everyone's faces were filled with joy. All the subordinates were discussing what to wear tomorrow, especially the groomsmen's group. Absolute Heaven was very honored to be one of the groomsmen. If Wei Chang was here, he would definitely go and be the groomsman as well. Lai Gu also wanted to be the groomsman, but right now, Lai Gu was so huge, and he was hiding in a valley beside Voidless Empire. Not being able to come back home, Lai Gu's 4 wives would sometimes go back home to take a few glances at Lai Gu, and Lai Gu would only be able to look at Lai Gu and not be able to touch Lai Gu. This kind of feeling, to a dragon, this is torture. That's why, that Qing Su is so ruthless. Other than Zhu Tian, Yi Hong and Luo Ho had also joined in. LV Lu was too ashamed to go. She didn't even reconnect her broken arm. She seemed to be using this method to remind herself. Since it was a joyous occasion, Yihua decided that the theme of tomorrow's celebration would be red. As for the style, it was up to you. But remember, don't embarrass yourself. Tomorrow will be the most important day for the entire Voidless Empire. The entire North will fall under my power. At this moment, Yihua was finally seated in the bedroom. He was mainly here to supervise the dressing of these women. Hundreds of custom-made red festive dresses could be seen hanging on both sides of the wall. These kinds of dresses did not lose their noble temperament, and they also had the grandeur that an empress should have. However, Yihua still had to personally take a look at them, so that Qingye and Donghuang Baiji wouldn't cause any trouble. While the four women were changing their clothes behind the barrier, Yihua just sat outside and drank tea. His mood became slightly better. I hope that by using Xiao Tian's marriage, I will be able to have good luck. Just changing clothes, why are you changing for so long? Yihua couldn't help but urge. Could it be that the two of you want to change for the entire night? This woman was so troublesome to change her clothes. Qing Yutong shouted out, "Brother-in-law, this headdress is too difficult to wear, it's so complicated." Sigh. Yihua let out a light sigh. These clothes, every single one of them even have a matching head accessory, it is indeed a bit difficult to make. After lighting up a stick of cigarette, Yihua thought about other things. There is still no news from the White Bones, the progress seems to be very slow. I wonder if any unexpected situations will occur during the wedding ceremony this time. Right now, I am already being targeted. Under normal circumstances, after making such a big move, I will definitely come over and cause trouble. Seems like I have to take some precautions. However, it is also good for me to come over and let these people see Voidless Empire's strength. Just as Yihua was pondering, the four women walked out from behind the barrier. Yihua went into a slight daze. Holy shit! How can my women be so beautiful? If I were to bring them out tomorrow, I would become the envy of others. That would give me too much face. For different styles, and each of them had a different charm to them. Beautiful, too beautiful. Other than being beautiful, their temperament and grandeur are also top-notch, as expected of my women. This time, they finally gave me a bit of face. However, I cannot let them become too arrogant. Therefore, not good-looking, change. Yihua said faintly. Look at that Qingye and Donghuang Baiji, they are still putting on such a frown. If they are still like this tomorrow, I will spank their butts until they are swollen. The four women did not say anything and continued changing clothes. If it wasn't because tomorrow is very important, would you be so smug? After a while, the four women changed into another set. Yihua felt that the new set was not as good looking as the first set. Continue changing. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were clearly swallowing their anger. However, they endured their anger and went to change into another set. Then, they began. Not good looking, change. Continue changing. Change. God knows how many sets were changed. Qingye couldn't take it anymore and shouted out gravely, Yihua. Are you messing with me? Yihua raised his head slightly and looked at Qingye. What are you talking about? I am just thinking about tomorrow. You. Even Qian Yuqing and Qing Yutong became gloomy. Taking off my clothes, putting on my clothes, and even having to put on my clothes, this is so troublesome. Yihua knew that it was about time and said faintly, we're the first set tomorrow. The four wives, this is simply bullying. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji immediately hammered at Yihua, while Yihua disappeared from where he was, not giving the two of them a chance. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji stomped their feet in anger. Count yourself lucky. Otherwise, I would have hammered you to death for playing with people. Yihua chose a red robe with golden threads inlaid on it. When wearing this robe, it looks very lively. Gold represents imperial power, red represents blessing. Not bad, not bad. Zishan, come over for a moment. Yi Hua called out lightly. Since Wei Chang wasn't around, there were a lot of things that needed to be managed by other subordinates. Because Wei Chang went missing, Tang Wei was very depressed, and she basically didn't dare to step out of the door. Zishan's working ability was very strong, thus, the task of receiving the foreign guests was given to Zishan. Subordinate. Greetings to your honor. Zishan's figure quickly appeared behind Yi Hua and said respectfully. Is everyone here? Yi Hua asked faintly. Zishan said in a low voice, Your honor, all of the powers in northern Liang are here. All of Aloe River's powers are here as well. Half of Aloe River's ancient land's powers are here, but if you have anything to say, just say it. Yi Hua said faintly. But, other than northern Liang, Aloe River's powers and ancient land's powers have different opinions towards Wushu Empire. Zishan said rather vaguely. In actuality, other people just felt that it was nothing much. End of this chapter. Chapter 1151. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Previously, we only met with Yuanyang Palace. Seems like there are still some people who don't believe in this, and only half of them actually came. Also, this Aluo, seems like I will have to teach them a lesson tomorrow. Yes. Your honor. Everything has been arranged properly, we will definitely be able to intimidate those people. Zishan was very excited in her heart. Tomorrow will be the day that I will be able to witness Wushu Empire's strength. What I want is not to intimidate, but to make them fear. Yi Hua said gravely. Zishan lowered her head and shouted out, Yes. Your honor, if there is nothing else, subordinate will be leaving now. Zishan said in a low voice. Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette ash and said lightly, Wait. Your honor, is there anything else? I heard that you and that fellow Yi Hong had a conflict again. Yi Hua slowly turned around and asked curiously. Zishan lowered her head, bit her lips lightly, and didn't say anything. Yi Hua raised his head and looked at Wushu Empire's night sky. The countless stars in the night sky were incredibly beautiful, and Yi Hua said slowly, Zishan, back then, I acted as the go-between for you. I have the heart to repay you. LV Liang and Yi Hong traveled a long distance to bring Ali back to my side. I owe them this favor. LV Liang is the big brother, and his temper is a bit strong. Yi Hong is an honest person, and marrying you to an honest person like Yi Hong should be a perfect thing. However, after so many years have passed, I realized that Yi Hong is too honest. I realized that, otherwise. Yi Hong is too honest. Even though he has obtained power, he is still the same as before. Zishan, you are a deity, and you have your own strength as well. However, no matter what, Yi Hong is still a man, and a husband and wife must respect each other. Yi Hua sighed lightly. While I, the Supreme Overlord, am lecturing others in a serious manner, I am actually the same as well. Zishan didn't say anything after hearing what Yi Hua said. I was the one who hosted your wedding back then, and it was my first time hosting a wedding like that. It was pretty good, but I don't feel like it anymore. A melon that is forcefully picked won't be sweet. If the two of you can't live on anymore, you can just leave, I won't stop you. Yi Hua said lightly. This time, he wasn't pretending, he was serious. If they were afraid that I would blame them, then it's fine now. I have already spoken, and the two of you can leave and live the life that you want. Zishan's body trembled. Divorce? This was something that Zishan had never thought of before. Although she often scolded Yi Hong, she had never thought of divorcing him. Where else could she find such a man who allowed her to beat and scold him? In the end, he even coaxed her and said that the next one would be even more gentle. That was a lie. It didn't exist. Your Honor, the arrangement that you made back then is the luckiest thing that happened to me, Zishan. I will definitely not divorce this marriage. Zishan's eyes were filled with determination. After hearing that, Yi Hua nodded his head. It isn't good for me to get too involved in your family's matters. you can do as you see fit. Thank you for your understanding, Your Honor. Let's go back and rest. It's been a long day. There are still many things to do tomorrow. Yes. Seeing that Zishan had left, Yihua also planned to return to his room and rest. Tomorrow is a good day, and it can be seen from the numerous stars in the sky. Zishan, who was walking on the main road of the imperial palace, tightly wrinkled her brows. While thinking about what his honor said to her, Zishan unknowingly arrived at his honor's bedroom. Zishan stood outside the house and thought for a long time. In the end, she pushed open the door and entered the house. It is already so late. Zishan thought to herself that Yi Hong should have already fallen asleep. Zishan took a look at the small room at the side. Recently, the husband and wife had been sleeping in separate rooms. Zishan slept on the big bed, and Yi Hong slept in the small room. The Cold War between the husband and wife was still going on. Zishan pouted her mouth and stood outside the small room. Soon after, she lightly pushed open the door and entered the small room. Yi Hong didn't sleep either. Yi Hong had been waiting for Zishan to come back. If Zishan doesn't come back, I will be worried. However, today, Zishan actually came into my room. What is going on? Yi Hong didn't understand. Could it be that Zishan is going to scold me again? We have already quarreled, and she still wants to scold me. If that's the case, I really can't take it anymore. However, Yi Hong didn't hear the sound of quarreling. Instead, she heard a slight sound. This seems to be the sound of Zishan taking off her clothes, right? What is Zishan trying to do? Is she trying to force herself on me? For the sake of giving birth to a child, could it be that she doesn't want to consider my feelings? Seems like this isn't the first or second time that she has forced herself on me. Not long after, Yi Hong felt a warm and delicate body squeezing into the blanket and tightly hugging onto her. At this moment, Yi Hong went into a daze. This feeling is so subtle, it is just like how I felt when I was dating Zishan just now. The two of them didn't speak, and there was an ambiguous atmosphere in the air. Of course, there was also the sound of the two's heartbeat. Not knowing how long had passed, Zishan said lightly, "Husband, I'm sorry, I was wrong." Yi Hong felt that his ears were ringing. Zishan actually took the initiative to apologize. What is going on? This awesome wife of mine actually apologized to me. I feel like I am dreaming. Husband, can you forgive me? In the future, I won't force you to give birth to a child anymore. Let nature take its course. Zishan had also just thought it through. If Zishan continued to force Yi Hong, she might really end up divorcing him. Really? Yi Hong was very happy in his heart. Zishan has finally thought it through. Zishan answered while tightly snuggling into Yi Hong's embrace. These few years, I have been forcing Zishan too much, and I have not given Yi Hong any face at all. Husband, in the future, I won't scold you anymore, I will properly love you. Yi Hong was so moved that she was about to cry. Zishan is finally sensible. It really wasn't easy for Zishan to say such words just now. Just what kind of stimulation did Zishan suffer just now? Sometimes, a husband and wife should express their love to each other. This would make the other party happy. Otherwise, if it was always one-sided, there would be problems in the long run. Love must be said. Yes. Hubby, will you still dote on me like before? Zishan said with a coquettish tone. This kind of Zishan caused Yi Hong to sigh in admiration. This kind of Zishan is simply like a ferocious tiger turning into a little kitten. Yi Hong hugged Zishan tightly. Yes, it will never change. Hubby, you're the best. Comfortable, Yi Hong felt so comfortable. Hubby, yeah, what's wrong? We haven't done that in a long time, ah. Yi Hong exclaimed. She had just said that she wouldn't force herself. In the past, my goal was to have children, but from today onwards, that's no longer the case. This is my love. Yi Hong expressed that she didn't understand what Yi Hong was saying. Are you bullying me because I have not gone to school before? You are talking about such a big logic. However, if his wife had a request, would the husband refuse? Furthermore, today, even Zishan had lowered her head to him. Yi Juetian was very happy. Yi Juetian was very unhappy, and he felt very hesitant. I'm definitely letting Yi down, letting her suffer alone in the woodshed. As a man, I'm truly too much of a failure. Meanwhile, Gong Yu, who was sleeping in the small room, was sleeping very soundly, because tomorrow will be the end of his troubles. End of this chapter. Chapter 1152. Inside the woodshed. Yi sat on the bed and looked at the clothes on the table. These clothes were sent over by Gong Yu. When the time comes, I will be able to mix into the group of palace maids and serve food and wine. When that time comes, it will be my chance. I will not bear this crime, even if I die, I will clear my name. Yi slowly laid down, took out a small mirror, and lightly stroked it. Right now, Ye won't use this to talk to me anymore. In his heart, does he just not trust me? Soon after, I took out that unfinished lollipop, took a look at it, and put it back. Tomorrow, Ye, I am not a spy. Early morning. In the snowy northern Liang land, only Wushu Empire's sky was filled with warm sunlight. On this day, the sunlight was bright and beautiful, and all of the residents had a festive atmosphere. Most of the people even wore red clothes and celebrated this moment together. This was the grandest banquet that Wushu Empire had ever held since the founding of the empire. Most of the powers in the north had even gathered here, allowing everyone to see the weight of Wushu Empire. After all, people would only come if they gave them face. This Wushu Empire is truly extraordinary. 3 absolute palaces, sure, you said softly. That's right, a few months ago, we were still standing outside the city and almost died. The one who spoke was Broken Moon Valley's Xiang Liren. He was also one of the 3 survivors, and even now, he was still trembling with fear. Fan Jin stood at the side and sighed in his heart. If I wasn't smart that day, I probably wouldn't even be standing here. It is my honor to be invited here. Fan Jin said softly. Today will be one of the most unforgettable days of my life. The most unforgettable day would definitely be that day. It shocked me to the point that I was dispirited for a few days and had nightmares. The scene of me trembling while standing outside the city was still fresh in my memory. Supreme Fan Jin. A voice rang out behind Fan Jin. Fan Jin turned around and called out softly, so it's Violent Wind Sect's Jiu Ming, long time no see. Violent Wind Sect was naturally a power from the ancient land, and they came here to join in the fun. This Jiu Ming had the appearance of a young man and seemed a bit flamboyant, which could be seen from his luxurious clothes. It was as if he was living in the countryside, making everyone worship him, but this Jiu Ming didn't have that kind of feeling, he didn't have that kind of feeling of being high and mighty. This Wushu Empire's people don't reveal any shock or fear when they look at me, as if they were looking at an ordinary person. He was too bold. Jiu Yang looked at Xiang Liren and Shiryu, who were at the side. He did not care about them at all. Small sects like these could be dealt with a wave of his hand. On the other hand, he could not afford to offend Fan Jin. Fan Jin was only afraid of Wushu Empire. As for this 9 sons, he wasn't afraid at all. After all, he was someone who had half a foot in the honorable realm. Supreme Fan Jin, I feel that this voidless empire is exaggerating. Jiu Yang said calmly. It wouldn't be too much to address Fan Jin as a supreme. Fan Jin snorted coldly in his heart. He had the same feeling when he came here before. He had thought that this Wushu Empire was just a tiger on the outside. But who would have thought that their inner heart was even more terrifying than an evil dragon? In response to 9 Sons' mockery, Fan Jin said indifferently, "Oh, you will know when the time comes." Sure, you and Xiang Liren didn't say anything. If they had spoken nicely, they might have warned him, but since he was acting like a boss, they would have made him suffer. At that time, you will know how precious life is. Supreme Fan Jin, 9 Sons sect leader. Right at this moment, another man walked over with a gentle smile on his face, appearing very approachable. This was the Twin Dragons Academy's headmaster, Baido. Sect leader Baido. Fan Jin called out softly. Shi Yu and Xiang Liren also called out. Baido, how do you feel about this place? Jiu Yang laughed softly with a mocking tone. Baido swept his gaze across the surroundings and said with a smile, this voidless empire is the most prosperous one I have ever seen. It is comparable to the Bright Mist communal country in the south. The Bright Mist communal country belongs to the deity institution. What does this voidless empire have? Jiu Yang snorted softly. Actually, his heart was filled with jealousy. This voidless empire was indeed prosperous and orderly. Compared to his own territory, his territory was like a bandit's nest. Baido didn't argue, although it is a little prosperous, the guards and whatnot here are still lacking. Hearing Baido's words, the three of them laughed in their hearts. To actually say that this place lacks battle prowess. Back then, the two of you weren't there. If you were, you would know what battle prowess is. You would be so scared that you would pee your pants. Baido continued to speak, in this voidless empire, a mere prince is getting married, yet he actually called out so many people. It's truly a huge effort. If it wasn't for the fact that I had nothing better to do, I wouldn't have bothered to come over. Jiu Yang snorted coldly. Fan Jin originally wanted to remind them, but he decided not to. If the two of you want to court death, no one would blame you. I heard that Yuanyang Manor attacked Voidless Empire. Where did all these people go? This is truly strange. Jiu Yang asked curiously. Baido opened his folding fan and said indifferently, who knows? Could it be that they were annihilated by this Voidless Empire? Back then, there were only 3 people left alive. Lai Gu had originally wanted these 3 people to spread the news. In the end, these 3 people didn't even dare to mention it. They were so scared that they peed their pants. Maybe they went to another place to mingle around, who knows? Jiu Yang spread out his hands. It was good for them to change locations, lest they meet on the battlefield in the future. At this moment, Fan Jin said indifferently, it is about time, we can enter the palace now. With Fan Jin as the leader, everyone nodded their heads. Other than these people, there were also some people from other empires who came, just that they didn't participate in their conversation. The wedding ceremony was naturally held outside of the palace, in the open. The wedding ceremony was similar to that day in the gods' realm, just that the venue and atmosphere were a bit more majestic, and there were all black armored warriors guarding the wedding ceremony. A red carpet extended from the palace entrance all the way to the main hall, and on both sides of the red carpet, there were warriors dressed in red armor. At the palace entrance, Zishan and Yu Hua were both counting the number of people, making sure that no one sneaked into the palace. The main thing was to check if there was anyone who came to cause trouble. Because His Honor had specially instructed them to not let down their guard. The women from Voidless Empire are quite good-looking. Jiu Yang looked at Zishan and Yu Hua and said softly. However, no matter how softly Jiu Yang spoke, Zishan and Yu Hua were still able to hear what he said. Immediately, they looked towards Jiu Yang. Originally, Jiu Yang wanted to continue teasing Jiu Yang, but subconsciously, he was telling himself that it was better for him to remain quiet. Fan Jin, Shi Yu, and Xiang Liren had seen Yu Hua before, and she was standing on top of the city gate tower, this woman. I can't afford to offend her. Yi Hua hurriedly lowered his head and walked into the palace. Baido, who was at the side, saw Fan Jin lowering his head. Could it be that he dropped something? I hurriedly lowered my head and looked at it. Baido lowering his head had saved my life. End of chapter. Chapter 1153. The guests entered the hall one after another, and the first thing they saw were 2 rows of red-armored warriors. The flags of the Voidless Empire were raised in their hands, and they were crossed together, not moving at all, giving off a feeling of iron and blood. They sure are putting on a show. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that I had entered some big event, Jiu Yang said calmly, a look of disdain in his eyes. However, Fan Jin did not dare to say anything. All he wanted to do today was to witness a grand spectacle. Perhaps it would be helpful to his cultivation base. Bai Dou didn't say anything. Actually, he couldn't be bothered to say anything. He felt that there was no need to. Since he had chosen to come here, there was no need to waste his breath. Nine Suns was here to seek excitement. On the long red carpet, there were 2 seats for the guests. There were names and numbers on them. You just had to follow the number on the invitation and take your seat. It was very convenient. Everyone gradually took their seats. At this time, the palace maids slowly walked in with wine. Amongst the palace maids, Yi was also amongst them, and she was currently holding onto a cup of wine. No one discovered Yi's existence, but Yi was determined to die today. Yo, there are so many beauties here. Nine Yang looked at Yi, who was leaning forward slightly, and was about to reach out and touch her. Sensing his intentions, Yi quickly retracted her hand. Hee hee. Jiu Yang laughed dryly, with a peculiar look in his eyes. If he went to those empires, he could have any woman he wanted. Those emperors would respectfully send their women to his room. Even those women had looks of pleading on their faces. To be able to serve me, the 9 Suns, is the good fortune you women have accumulated in your previous lives. Fan Jin was seated at the side and naturally saw Jiu Yang's actions. He could not help but say, Sect leader Jiu Yang, you have to pay attention to your image. There are quite a lot of people here. Indeed, there were quite a lot of them. If it wasn't the emperor, then it was the boss. There were hundreds of them. Jiu Yang squeezed out a smile and said, Supreme Fan Jin is right. With that, he fell silent. At this time, a figure slowly walked out of the palace, wearing a festive red robe. This was the Blood Demon, the master of ceremonies today. Although the Blood Demon had lost all of his strength, his aura was still there. Under such a grand occasion, he did not have any stage fright at all. He seemed very at ease. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome everyone who has come to attend His Highness' wedding today. It is a joy to have friends coming from afar. Blood Demon's words were light and powerful, but his last words carried a deep threat. Everyone present was smart and understood this principle. Those who came with good intentions would get good food and good wine. If they came with bad intentions, then don't blame them. What awaited them was only deep despair. This kind of despair would make you wish you were dead. Fan Jin was very knowledgeable and immediately applauded. As soon as Fan Jin clapped, everyone else followed suit. It was a very lively scene. Everyone has come from afar. His Majesty has prepared some small programs for all of you to enjoy. Blood Devil waved his hand and then retreated. The people sitting below were very curious. The Emperor hadn't arrived yet, but the entertainment program had already begun. How strange. However, just as everyone was feeling puzzled, a strange aura came from the sky. Everyone looked up at the sky. A black cloud slowly floated over from afar. When Fan Jin saw the black cloud, his expression froze. This is, Bai Dou's eyes glazed over in disbelief. Black rainbow cloud. Why would this thing appear here? Even Jiu Yang was stupefied. Sure, you showed that she was new and asked curiously, what is this black rainbow cloud? Xiang Liren, who was at the side, said faintly, black rainbow cloud, it is actually not a cloud. It is a type of rare prehistoric ferocious beast that looks like a cloud. According to legends, as long as one is enveloped by the black rainbow cloud, any living being will become a part of it. And the bigger the black rainbow cloud, the stronger it is. Even an overlord would be finished. Then, look at the size of this black rainbow cloud. Sure, you was a bit stupefied. This black rainbow cloud is about to cover the entire sky. This is too terrifying. Right now, Jiu Yang was already so shocked that he couldn't speak. After all, the black rainbow cloud had only appeared in books and had never appeared before. I didn't expect to actually see it today. However, here came the problem. This black rainbow cloud appeared. What is it for? What is it here for? Could it be that it is here to devour me? Everyone seemed to have thought of this and started to become nervous. However, Blood Demon's voice sounded, "Everyone, don't panic, this is just an entertainment program." Entertainment program? Who the hell would use a black rainbow cloud to liven things up, aren't they crazy? This is a black rainbow cloud, not some random cat or dog that can kill people with a single word of disagreement. As the black rainbow cloud gradually floated over, everyone felt a sense of pressure. Gradually, the black rainbow cloud stopped and covered the entire sky of Wushu Empire. The originally sunny weather immediately turned gloomy. This caused the joyous wedding to feel a bit heavy. Even the people in the city were puzzled. Why did the black rainbow cloud cover up the sunlight? This isn't right. Just as everyone was puzzled, a crack could be seen appearing on the black rainbow cloud. Rays of sunlight could be seen passing through the crack and shining onto the entire Wushu Empire. This was a visual touch. Those rays of sunlight seemed to symbolize hope, and when the sunlight shone onto the ground, everyone felt breathtaking. It was too beautiful, causing people to be unable to shift their eyes away from it. The people in the city were also stupefied by this beautiful scene. Is this what hope is? It's so magnificent. A multicolored rainbow light suddenly appeared and spanned across the entire Wushu Empire. That beautiful rainbow light seemed to have formed a bridge. Is this another bridge of hope? It's so beautiful. It's too beautiful. It's too breathtaking. Everyone had never seen such a spectacle before, and today, their horizons have truly been broadened. That black rainbow cloud up there is not something that just anyone can invite, and right now, it is actually able to perform for you. This will definitely be recorded in the history books. Ong! A loud and clear roar rang out from afar. This roar brought along a strong pressure, and this pressure was comparable to that of the black rainbow cloud. Fan Jin suddenly stood up and said blankly, "This is the legendary red-feathered white tiger." What? This is a red-feathered white tiger. Jiu Yang cried out in surprise, and his gaze was filled with deep fear. Sure, you asked curiously, what is a red-feathered white tiger? Fan Jin said gravely, if there is something above a dragon, then it would be a red-feathered white tiger. Above a dragon. Sure, you revealed a look of astonishment. There is something above a dragon. However, Sure, you immediately saw it. Sure, you suddenly stood up. This is really a dragon, but that is a tiger's head and a dragon's body, and it even has a pair of pure white wings. When those wings were spread out, they were actually as wide as the black rainbow cloud. Just how huge are those wings? Ong! The red-feathered white tiger that was at the front let out a roar, and the entire heaven and earth trembled. End of this chapter. Chapter 1154. When the people of the entire Voidless Empire saw this scene, their brains were all shocked. This was 2F** King terrifying, wasn't it? I have never seen such a huge creature before. Not only ordinary people, even Fan Jin had only seen it in a book, and it was only a few words about it. Jiu Yang swallowed his saliva, and his scalp went numb. Just what kind of empire is this? Just a black rainbow cloud is already enough to shock everyone. I didn't expect that red-winged white tigers would come again. An even more terrifying existence. And there are 3 of them. My God. Right at this moment, the 3 red-winged white tigers suddenly turned into dots of starlight and attached themselves to the layer of clouds. This made everyone feel as if they were looking at the stars in the night sky. So beautiful, to ordinary people, this is beautiful, but to those with strength, this is not beautiful. This is completely a type of panic. To actually be able to cause the red-winged white tigers to disintegrate. How is this possible? The powerful and terrifying ancient godly beast actually did this. This is unimaginable. I am definitely dreaming. Jiu Yang muttered. Baidu rubbed his eyes, seemingly unwilling to believe what was happening in front of him. An empire. To actually be able to bring out such a godly beast. This was something that could not possibly exist. Sure, Yu and Xiang Liren finally knew that what they saw that day was just the tip of the iceberg. Perhaps, what they saw right now is just the tip of the iceberg. Fan Jin slowly sat down, his breathing a bit hurried. I didn't come here for nothing today. Although I only saw 2 rare beasts, it was a great help to my realm, and my horizons have been broadened by a lot. Yi, who was standing among the palace maids, was also incomparably shocked. Although she did not know what it was, the scene in front of her had already deeply attracted her. I feel that I am very small standing here, and I still have to explain myself face to face later on. Will these people listen to my explanation? I can't care so much anymore. Today is a rare opportunity. If I were to miss it, I would have to carry this infamy for my entire life. If I were to end it just like this, that would not be Yi Hua's style. Quickly look, what is that? Where? Above the rainbow light. Everyone stood up once again and looked at the end of the rainbow light. Some figures appeared, but these figures were not humans, and they were walking with 2 legs. As these things approached, everyone was puzzled. There were more than 100 people in the group, but they didn't look like humans. Because their heads grew on their chests, and they only had 2 legs, but no hands. It was very strange. The newbie Shiryu asked curiously again, what species is this? I've never seen it before. Xiang Liren shook his head, indicating that he didn't understand either. Baidu asked curiously, Supreme Fan Jin, do you recognize these? Fan Jin considered himself to be knowledgeable, but when he saw these things, he was still dumbfounded. Jiu Yang, on the other hand, revealed an extremely terrified expression. His entire body was trembling as if he had seen a ghost. Sect leader Nine Sons, do you recognize these species? Baidu could tell from Nine Sons' expression that he recognized them. Tiny beads of sweat appeared on Jiu Yang's forehead as he said in a fearful tone, I once heard my great master mention a legend. What legend? Fan Jin asked curiously. A very, very long time ago, there was a group of strange races. They were invincible, and wherever they went, nothing grew. Their heads grew on their chests, and they didn't have hands, but they had 2 legs. They had a powerful and enviable talent, immortality. Xiang Liren asked curiously, does this immortality refer to life or? They couldn't be killed. Jiu Yang added. Shiryu was curious, since they couldn't be killed, why did this group of people disappear? I don't know. In the past, I thought my great master said it was just for fun, but today, I realized that it was true. These people were called Black Giants. Killing a supreme being was like killing an ant. Jiu Yang said blankly, suddenly feeling afraid. He had started to mock this place the moment he arrived at Wushu Empire. If those mocking words were known by others, wouldn't he be finished? Thinking of this, Jiu Yang broke out in cold sweat. He wasn't even a supreme being, and even if he was, he would be an existence that would tremble in fear just by sitting here. Over 100 black giants walked to the center of the rainbow and stopped, and something that made everyone confused happened. The black giants could be seen leaning backwards slightly, and multicolored things suddenly shot out from their mouths, bayubiubiu, bang, bang, bang. These multicolored things were just like fireworks, and they blossomed beneath the clouds. It was so beautiful that it took one's breath away. These are really artificial fireworks, and they look just like bubbles. However, what everyone didn't know was that the things that the black giants spat out actually had very great destructive power. It was just that, for the sake of the show this time, the black giants' weapons were precisely their mouths. As long as they were to shoot at the same time, the defenseless Wushu Empire would be instantly destroyed. Brilliant fireworks blossomed beneath the black rainbow clouds. All of the girls were stupefied by this scene. If someone were to propose to them right now, they would definitely agree to it, this is too romantic. However, Fan Jin and the others finally knew. This was the effect of turning day into night. Let the black rainbow clouds come over and act as the night. Let the red-winged white tiger come over and act as the stars. Then, let the black giants that were terror-stricken come over and use their mouths to shoot fireworks. For these three formidable characters to gather together, just for this, just how much manpower and material resources were needed to accomplish this. These things were all found by Brett. As for how he found out about it, Yihua wouldn't ask about it. Yihua was only looking at the final result of the show. At the very least, up until now, he was rather satisfied. Brett was still very meticulous this time. Yi, who was in the group, looked at the magnificent fireworks and felt that it was so beautiful, so beautiful. I really want to engrave this moment deep into my mind. Furthermore, it would be great if Yi was by my side. Such a beautiful scenery, if I were to lie in Yi's embrace, how romantic would that be? I hope that I will have this chance in the future, but the prerequisite is that I have to be able to explain everything clearly today. The fireworks lasted for 10 minutes, and the black giants slowly left. As for where they went, no one knew, and no one dared to go and provoke them. Suddenly, a hollow yet sweet-sounding bell rang out, and it immediately made everyone feel relaxed and happy. Just by hearing the bell, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. That is. Baido cried out in surprise when he saw the item that was walking over. Fan Jin's eyeballs were about to pop out. I am afraid that everyone knows about this thing, because it is written in the books. However, this thing is already extinct, and it can even be said that it no longer exists. However, this thing actually appeared today. The new sure you didn't ask anymore, because she knew about this thing. It is called Heavy Thunder. End of this chapter. Chapter 1155. This was a type of prehistoric divine beast that looked extremely similar to a stag. The only difference was the pair of horns. This was no longer a horn, but a type of medicine that could make people immortal. In order to achieve immortality, one had to become a supreme being. However, how many people were stuck at this stage and eventually died of old age? However, just a little powder from the pair of horns of Heavy Thunder could make people immortal. Although this fellow's attacks weren't that great, his horns were much more absorptive than the other three. After all, there was nothing more important than immortality. As long as he had enough time, it wasn't impossible for him to reach the supreme level. He was just afraid that he wouldn't be able to reach it even if he used up all the time. Fan Jin, for example. Although he was young, it was only an illusion created by magic. He wasn't really young. Everyone was staring at Heavy Thunder, wishing they could dig out its horn and eat it. That way, he would be able to obtain immortality and eternal youth. But everyone was guessing in their hearts. Just how much foundation did this Wushu Empire have? Was there anything even more terrifying? With these things, he could sweep across the entire Kangluo continent. At this moment, Ren Yao, who was standing far away, was also shocked when she saw these monsters. Just who is this His Honor? With such great power, he was able to take out these rare treasures. The subordinates were already used to this kind of pretentiousness. It was just that they would change it every time. Today, it was also a visual enjoyment. It was not completely pretentiousness, but it also seemed to have a little bit of life philosophy. It seems like His Honor has also comprehended a bit of the Great Tao. Zhong Ting gradually walked to the center. The bell on his ears stopped ringing. Everyone looked at Zhong Ting. What was he going to do? However, the Heavy Thunder hummed softly as if it was singing. Everyone's scalp went numb. They actually invited Zhong Ting to sing. He had seen amazing people, but he had never seen someone this amazing. Invincible. He was truly invincible. It was a wedding song, but most people couldn't tell what it was. Gradually, a beam of light suddenly expanded, illuminating the entire main seat. 5 figures appeared at the top of the black cloud. Everyone couldn't help but rub their eyes. Who were these people? It seemed so sacred and inviolable. Heavy Thunder stopped speaking and looked at the noble head below the figure. Even the black giant was the same. Everyone felt that, could this be the Emperor of Voidless Empire? At this moment, Fan Jin was clearly very excited. He was finally going to see the Emperor of Voidless Empire. He was finally going to see it. This would be the most precious moment of his life. Fan Jin was not the only one who thought this way. Everyone else felt the same way. They were all emperors, but to be able to do what he did was simply incomparable. The ones who appeared in the sky were, of course, Yi Hua and his 4 wives. Originally, Yi Hua wanted to come out in a more exciting way, but when he thought about how today was his little brother's wedding, he didn't want to steal his little brother's limelight. Thus, he decided to be a bit more low-key. If everyone knew that this was the result of keeping a low profile, then what would it be like to be high profile? Yi Hua brought along his 4 wives and slowly descended, and gradually, everyone was able to clearly see what was going on. All of them were stunned. This Wushu Empire's emperor is too good-looking, right? And the 4 women beside him, they were so beautiful that it was suffocating. Was she still a woman? How could she be so beautiful? Shi Yu's current surprise was the most profound. It turned out that he was the one in the wheelchair. He was the emperor. Good heavens! And those women. Good heavens! It was them. Yi Hua was very satisfied with everyone's gaze. That kind of shock and fear, I have finally achieved my goal. However, until now, no one had come out to cause trouble. This was a little strange. Could it be that he was thinking too much? Be envious of me. My strength is something that you all are unable to imagine. My women are not people that you all can afford to provoke. Such outstanding women can only be enjoyed by me. Yi looked at the Empress who was beside Big Brother Emperor with a bit of envy. The Empress and the others are so beautiful, so dignified, and so imposing. I am completely unable to compare with them. How can I be Ye's wife like this? Gong Yu's temperament is much stronger than mine. Maybe Gong Yu is Ye's best choice, Yi Hua lightly sighed. Yi is currently looking for an opportunity. Right now, the dishes have not been served yet, and there are many guards in front of me. I reckon that before I can even rush over, I would already be caught. I have to wait until the dishes are served, Your Majesty. Long live! Long live! Long live! Fan Jin was the first to shout out. Following Fan Jin's shout, everyone came back to their senses from their shock and shouted out, Your Majesty! Long live! Long live! Long live! When that voice landed in Yi Hua's ears, it sounded so beautiful. It was just like the chirping of a sparrow, extremely pleasant to listen to. This is the benefit that comes from being powerful. If I am not powerful, I will only be bullied by them. And if I am powerful, they can only lower their heads and shout out, Long live, towards me. Yi Hua waved his hand and shouted out indifferently, Rise. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. This emperor is indeed not ordinary. Especially Jiu Yang, right now, he was already incomparably regretful. Just now, I even insulted the person who came. Seeing such a scene, a single sentence from the person who came would be enough to kill me. Everyone, are you satisfied with these little tricks? Yi Hua slowly sat down, while his 4 wives sat at his sides. Everyone didn't even dare to breathe loudly as they shouted out in unison, Your Majesty is formidable. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Humans, this habit of bootlicking is really hard to get rid of. It's good that you are satisfied. Everyone slightly lowered their heads and laughed dryly. How can I not be satisfied? I am about to pee in my pants. Yi Hua waved his hand, the black rainbow cloud in the sky could be seen slowly leaving, and the starlight fused into the appearance of the red-winged white tiger and slowly flew away. Everything returned to normal, and the sunlight shone upon the entire Wushu Empire. It felt warm and comfortable. Let me invite my mother over. Yi Hua stood up and personally shouted out. Lu Jing's figure could be seen slowly appearing. Yi Yuanqing was supporting Lu Jing by the side, and Daji was also standing at the side to serve Lu Jing. the three of them slowly walked out. Everyone hurriedly shouted out, "Greetings, Empress Dowager." Lu Jing's makeup today made her look very imposing, revealing the might of an Empress Dowager as she sat beside Yi Hua. "Those who came are guests, everyone, rise." Lu Jing shouted out lightly. "Thank you, Empress Dowager." Everyone felt that Empress Dowager seemed to be very easy to talk to. However, at this moment, some of Yi Hua's subordinates were all on guard around the palace to prevent any sudden incidents from happening. Today, no accidents are allowed to happen, if not tomorrow, the entire north will go crazy. Yi Hua said with joy, "Today is my little brother's wedding. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone for coming. For those who came today, I have even prepared gifts, don't forget to bring them back." End of this chapter. Chapter 1156. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Everyone shouted out once again, not daring to be the slightest bit impudent. They were even thinking in their hearts, what kind of treasure did the emperor give them? It is definitely not a small thing, it is definitely a good thing. Yi Hua slowly sat down and signaled for everyone to continue. Blood Demon took a step forward and shouted, "The auspicious time has arrived, let the wedding ceremony begin." Everyone was very curious, just what kind of person is the emperor's younger brother, and of course, they were also very curious what the bride looked like. Roar! A terrifying dragon roar suddenly resounded throughout the ground, causing everyone's scalp to go numb. Perhaps it was because they had just seen the red-winged white tiger, but when they looked at the dragon again, it seemed like the quality of the dragon had dropped a bit. However, everyone discovered that they were wrong. They were extremely wrong. Because this was a carriage being pulled by 9 dragons. 9 enormous dragons were pulling a wedding carriage, and the carriage was flying over from afar. Everyone in Wushu Empire saw it. Jiu Yang and Bai Dou were already numb to it. Too many things had happened today, and even their eyesight had been broadened. Compared to this place, the place that I came from is simply a rubbish dump. 9 enormous dragons of different colors soared in the sky, and within the wedding carriage was naturally Yi Juetian and Gong Yu. Right now, Gong Yu's head was covered with a red veil, and her hands were tightly clasped together, appearing to be very nervous. However, within this nervousness, there was also excitement. Today, I finally got what I wanted. I married the man that I liked, although the process was a bit bumpy, the ending was still considered good. There was only one last segment left. Today, Yi was definitely going to die. It was not a good sign for someone to die in my own wedding ceremony, but in order to get rid of this scourge, I can only do this. Let Yi Juetian completely give up on this idea. Yi Juetian, who was sitting at the side, felt very uncomfortable. I wonder how Yi is right now, she should be feeling very bad, right? In the future, I will definitely help you clear your name, I believe that you are not a spy. Yi also saw dragons, these were creatures that ordinary people would never be able to see in their entire lives. Meanwhile, Yi and Gong Yu were sitting in the carriage at the back, being pulled by 9 divine dragons. What a great honor, if I am sitting in the carriage, how blissful would that be? However, these are all just my own wishful thinking. The 9 enormous dragons slowly landed on the red carpet, and the wedding carriage's door just so happened to be facing the red carpet. At this time, the groomsmen and bridesmaids appeared. The bridesmaids were Sun Fang and Tang Wei. Tang Wei felt that since Uncle Wei was not around, she should also do something. Zhu Tian personally opened the door, and Yi Juetian's figure appeared. However, when Yi Juetian appeared, everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. This person looks exactly the same as the emperor, as expected of my biological brother. As Gong Yu was wearing a red veil, everyone couldn't see her appearance clearly. However, from that arrogant body shape, it could be seen that she should be a beauty. In any case, it definitely won't be an ugly girl. Welcome the bride and groom. Play the music. Blood Devil shouted in a joyous tone. Looking at her youngest son getting married, Lu Jing's face was filled with satisfaction. Yi Hua was the same as well. He had finally managed to hold his younger brother's wedding. Dong 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 dong, Dong 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 dong, a sweet-sounding voice resounded throughout the entire voidless empire as everyone offered their blessings. The two newcomers walked towards the main seat and prepared to greet. When he walked up the steps, the female officer below waved, indicating that the wine could be served. Just now, the drinks were almost finished. I will definitely have to propose a toast later on. Right now, Yi was holding onto the wine pot, and her breathing was a bit hurried, very nervous, very hesitant. However, when he saw Ye walking up the stairs, his rapid breathing gradually calmed down. Today, I must definitely explain everything clearly and say it in front of everyone. The palace maids slowly entered the venue and added more wine to the table. Jiu Yang looked at Yi, who was in front of him once again. Yi is very beautiful, but right now, he doesn't dare to tease her at all. His sitting posture is just like a child. He was afraid that his teacher would see him. Right now, Qian Yuqing's gaze was filled with astonishment. Because she had been worried about Yi, she specially observed Yi. Jiu Yang's position was closer to the front, thus Qian Yuqing saw Yi with a single glance. Qian Yuqing was startled by Yi's action. What are you doing? Don't mess around. If you mess around today, even the Heavenly King won't be able to save you. Yi, please don't do anything stupid. There will still be chances in the future, however, to Yi, today is a chance. If she misses today, there won't be any more chances in the future. Qingye saw that Qian Yuqing's expression was a bit bad, so she followed Qian Yuqing's gaze and looked over. Upon discovering Yi, Qingye was startled. Why is she here? This, Qingye hurriedly pulled Dong Huang Baiji, who was beside her, and hinted. Dong Huang Baiji similarly discovered Yi, and her expression sunk. For Yi to appear here today, could it be because of something else? It is definitely because of Yi Juetian's wedding. Could it be that Yi is here to stop the wedding? My God! This foolish woman is being muddle-headed again. If you do this, you will have wasted little Tian's painstaking efforts. Why are you so immature? However, to Yi, this is not doing a foolish thing, this is doing the right thing. Different positions, different ways of thinking would naturally be different. Perhaps, if Qingye and the others were to look at the problem from Yi's point of view, they wouldn't feel that what Yi is doing is foolish, but rather, what Yi is doing is a type of courage. She dares to face the tyrant Yi Hua. Gong Yu, who was walking on the stairs, was very nervous. If Yi were to give up today, my future days will definitely not be easy. However, I have already walked till now. Why haven't I heard Yi's voice yet? Foolish woman. Hurry up and shout, defend yourself. Yi Juetian still didn't know that Yi was standing not far away from him, and on his face, a blissful smile appeared. Yi had already changed the wine pot, and seemed to be preparing to return with the palace maids. However, when all of the palace maids returned, Yi was still standing in front of Jiu Yang without moving. Jiu Yang was a bit stupefied right now. Big sister, don't mess around, this is not a joke. If you are joking, I will die. Big sister, I beg you, quickly leave. I will apologize for my actions just now, okay? Please don't report me, I am in the wrong. Fan Jin also discovered that this palace maid is very strange. Her expression is one of struggle. Could it be that she is preparing to report Jiu Yang's actions just now? Bai Dou also discovered that and sat at the side, not uttering a word. I mustn't invite trouble onto myself. Sure, Yu and Xiang Liren sneered in their hearts. Now you know fear, right? Why didn't you think when you were preparing to bully others just now? Yi's expression really frightened Jiu Yang badly. Right now, the famous Jiu Yang had the urge to pee in his pants. If this palace maid were to report me, I am finished. I am dead for sure. I will definitely have to feed it to the dragons. Big sister, I will kneel down for you, okay? Don't mess around. Jiu Yang said in a low voice, his lips were trembling, and his heart was about to jump out. However, Yi's face was expressionless as she slowly walked to the center position and looked at the tall stairs, as well as those people on top of the stairs. End of this chapter. Chapter 1157. Right now, Jiu Yang's mind was a bit dizzy. What are you doing? Just how big of a matter is this? I didn't even touch your hand, and you want to complain about me? Other people always say that women are stingy. I didn't believe it in the past, but today, I have finally seen it for myself. If you complain about me in this kind of situation, you will also die, and you still want to drag me to die with you. Are you crazy? With a thud, Yi directly knelt on the ground. Along with Yi kneeling down, Jiu Yang fainted, thinking to himself that I am going to die today. It's just a small matter. Do you really have to kill me? This was too careless. However, everyone looked at Yi's actions in confusion. What was this palace maid doing? Why did he suddenly kneel down? The other palace maids were also shocked. What was going on? The female official fainted from fright. She had instructed her not to make any mistakes today, but it still happened. When Qian Yuqing saw Yi kneeling down, her expression immediately became heavy. It's over, it's really over. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were the same. Yi Hua placed a lot of importance on today's event, and yet, Yi, you actually chose to create trouble today. Even we don't dare to plead for you. Qing Yutong didn't see it before, but now that she saw it, she was also shocked by Yi's actions. Brother-in-law had been preparing for this day for the past few days, and I even felt that someone would come and make trouble for me today. Alright, now that everything is alright, you really came to create trouble. My God, why are you so stupid? When Lu Jing saw Yi kneeling on the ground, the smile on her face gradually disappeared. Her gaze turned solemn. However, Yi Hua's line of sight was blocked by the two newbies. Thus, he was unable to see what was going on. However, he was able to hear the sounds of discussions. Right at this moment, Gong Yu also heard the subtle sounds of discussion that came from behind her, and she became happy in her heart. Could it be that Yi has made a move? Yi Juetian, who was beside him, also heard it, and he turned his head around to look at it with a puzzled expression. He immediately saw the palace maid kneeling in the middle. Yi Juetian's gaze gradually became astonished, and even became lifeless. Yi was actually kneeling here. Yi Juetian felt as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. Last night, I did think that Yi would come back, but that was all just my imagination running wild. Never in a million years would he have thought that the thing he feared the most would appear just like that. Yi really came. Gong Yu felt that Yi Juetian, who was beside her, had stopped. Then, without thinking too much, it was definitely Yi. This foolish woman still hasn't given up. I, Gong Yu, can't help but admire your courage. Making Big Brother Emperor look bad in front of so many people, if it was me, I definitely wouldn't have the guts. Yi Hua felt that the atmosphere wasn't right. Thus, he shifted his gaze slightly and immediately saw Yi, who was kneeling on the ground. His originally joyous face suddenly became incomparably gloomy. I have thought of all kinds of troublemaking scenarios. He had only forgotten about Yi. I really, never would I have expected this. She was the one who dared to cause trouble. Choosing such a special day to make me look bad. He was really scheming. Yi Juetian came back to his senses and immediately shouted, "Men! Drag her out!" This was also the only way to save Yi. Silly woman, you can't act recklessly today, you will die. A few guards immediately walked towards Yi. However, Yi Hua shouted out gravely, "Wait." When Yi Juetian heard what his big brother said, he immediately felt that something was amiss. It wasn't only Yi Juetian who felt that way, Qingye and the others felt that way too. It's over, Yi angered Yi Hua. When Gong Yu heard her big brother telling her to wait, she felt great in her heart. Yi, if you don't die today, Zhu Tian will be yours. I, Gong Yu, will definitely do what I say. The people below were already discussing it. Those who were seated here were all big shots. They felt that this matter wasn't that simple. To dare to cause trouble at such an important moment, this palace maid's guts wasn't just ordinary. Could it be that this palace maid has gone mad? Sure, you said in a low voice. Xiang Liren nodded his head. That's right, we still have to listen to what this palace maid has to say. If it's something bad, I'm afraid. Fan Jin said gravely, seems like today isn't that simple. Jiu Yang had already fainted from fright. His face was pale and devoid of any color. If it was a normal situation, this kind of matter would definitely be dealt with at a later time and brought Yi away first. However, was Yi Hua that kind of person? The other party had already provoked him to his face. If I were to send someone to bring Yi away, tomorrow, news of my Wushu Empire doing something shameful would spread out. The losses outweighed the gains. At this moment, Lu Jing said in a low voice, Yi Hua, let's deal with this matter at a later time. Yi Juetian must have definitely pleaded for his mother, and he hurriedly said, Big brother, if we deal with this matter at a later time, I'm afraid that Wushu Empire's reputation will be affected. Qingye said in a low voice, Yi Hua, the overall situation is more important. However, not only did Yi Hua's anger not quelled, he instead became angrier and angrier. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to see her today. What is she doing? To actually choose to slap my face in public. Such guts. After so many years, you are the first ordinary person who dares to do such a thing. And it's even a woman. I am innocent. Yi said in a low voice. Following Yi's words, the sounds of discussion became even louder. What does this palace maid mean? Why is she saying that she is innocent? Just what is such a powerful empire hiding? Is this a loss of morals, or is this a kidnapping by the empire? Right now, everyone's gossipy heart was burning and boiling. They wished that they could immediately know the ins and outs of the matter. When Yi Juetian heard Yi's words, his mind became a bit stupefied. What does Yi mean by this? Could it be that she is still trying to explain for my mother? After all, no one told Yi about the matter of the spy. I am not a spy. Yi explained in a low voice once again. However, this tone of hers made her seem so weak and helpless. However, the word spy caused a huge uproar. A spy actually appeared in such a powerful and prosperous Wushu empire. As expected, even powerful empires would have spies appearing. Furthermore, this spy even explained in front of everyone, just what exactly is going on. Yi Hua's expression sunk. How did she know? Who told her about it? Yi Hua himself wasn't sure either. In actuality, in Yi Hua's heart, it wasn't important who told him about it. You made me lose a lot of face today. You actually want to explain. Then, I shall fulfill your wish. You said that you are not a spy. Do you have any evidence? Yi Hua asked coldly. If you are unable to give me a reason today, I will personally kill you. Yi, who was kneeling on the ground, slowly raised her head. Your Majesty, please believe me, I am not a spy. I will not harm everyone. I am not that kind of person. Seems like you don't have any evidence. However, I do. Yi Hua immediately waved his hand, and the conversation between Yi Hua and Huang Feidi instantly appeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 1158. Everyone was watching, and everyone was listening. When Yi heard and saw it, she was in disbelief. She didn't even know that man. Why did this man want to frame her? Your Majesty, I am being wrongly accused. I don't even know this man at all. Yi finally knew why Ye would ignore me, because all of them had misunderstood me. However, everyone didn't expect that this woman was actually sent by someone else to harm the Empress Dowager. My God, to actually be able to live until now after plotting against the Empress Dowager. Furthermore, looking at the Emperor's attitude, it seems like he already knew about it, but he didn't kill him. The various emperors couldn't help but think that if it were them, they would have already killed him. Yi Hua said coldly, you keep on saying that you are innocent, but where is the evidence? Isn't everything you're doing destroying this emperor's family? Yi Juetian. Don't you think so? Right now, Yi Hua was extremely furious. I, the Supreme Overlord, had already let her off, and didn't directly kill her. Today is such a big day, and yet, she actually appeared and said such a thing. Regardless of whether you were framed or not, you wasted all the medicine. This is an iron-like fact. My mother doesn't have much time left. If it wasn't for me giving my little brother face, I would have already killed you over 100 times. Do you still think you can live until now? Yi Juetian didn't know how to answer this question, he only thought about how to protect Yi Yi's life. How? How was he supposed to protect himself? Yi Yuanqing really wanted to say a few words, but looking at his big brother's gloomy face, if he said it now, it would be even worse. Yi Yuanqing wasn't the only one who was thinking this way. Qingya and the others didn't dare to anger Yi Hua right now, as doing so would only hasten Yi's death. Gong Yu, on the other hand, was very happy. Big Brother Emperor was already enraged. Today, Yi would definitely die. Lu Jing sighed helplessly. You silly child, why did you have to choose today? Aren't you just courting death? Everyone looked at Yi Juetian, and they seemed to have thought of something. It can't be that, the Emperor's blood brother likes this girl, right? Otherwise, how could this woman still be alive? Yi raised her head and looked at Yi Juetian. So, other people can choose not to believe in themselves, but Yi, you should believe in yourself. Really? Yi Juetian felt that, if I were to choose to believe Yi, wouldn't I end up angering Big Brother even more? If he really did that, he would definitely lose his big brother's face in front of everyone. At that time, it would be even more difficult to clean up the mess, and his big brother would be even more furious. However, if I don't believe in Yi will definitely feel very uncomfortable. Yi Juetian glanced at his elder brother with a pleading look in his eyes. Could he not kill Yi? Yi Hua didn't even take a look at it. Yi Juetian knitted his brows tightly. He turned around and shouted, since you don't have any evidence, then don't bother explaining anymore. Hearing Yi Juetian's words, Yi Hua felt slightly better. I didn't lose face for Big Brother in front of so many people. At least you're sensible. Yi Juetian thought to himself, I'm giving my big brother face, so my big brother should also give me face. However, when Yi heard Yi Juetian's words, her face instantly became pale and powerless. Why does everyone not believe in me? Even you, are the same as them. Yi couldn't help but think back to the scene where she met Yi Juetian for the first time. I believed in you, and I followed you. But, in the end, why can't I believe in you? Why would I harm others? Why don't you believe in me? Yi looked at Yi Juetian and asked. Without a doubt, this was telling everyone that she had a relationship with this prince. Everyone discussed in a low voice. Royal family gossip, even such an awesome royal family would have this kind of gossip, the plot of a prince falling in love with a palace maid, but in the end, marrying someone else. This is really too melodramatic. Tomorrow, the entire north will most probably spread about how powerful Wushu Empire is, and how there is a secret that no one knows about. Yi Juetian really hoped that Yi would stop asking about this. I am clearly saying this for Big Brother to hear, however, how would the sad Yi understand all these? Yi will believe whatever you say to her. Yi Juetian looked at the discussions that everyone was having, and thought to himself, I'm done for, Big Brother is a respectable person. Enough. You don't have to say anymore, I will not believe in the words that you say. Yi Juetian endured the pain in his heart and shouted out. Looking at how much pain Yi was in, I really want to take her place and bear this sin. Hearing Yi Juetian's words, Yi's face became ashen. The discussions that were happening beside Yi's ears entered Yi's ears. This woman still wants to enter the royal family, she is truly shameless. That's right, to intentionally choose such a day to lay all her cards on the table, she is truly a scheming woman. If I was the emperor, I would have killed this kind of woman long ago. If you have the ability, then you are the emperor, alright? All sorts of malicious words caused Yi's head to feel a bit dizzy. Yi slowly raised her head and looked towards the blue sky. The sky above Wushu Empire was very beautiful, and when the gentle sunlight shone onto Yi's body, it felt very warm. However, Yi was not able to feel this warmth. On the contrary, it was bone-piercingly cold, so cold that it seemed as if it could even freeze one's heart. Yi Hua, today is little Tian's big day, let's not cause any deaths. Lu Jing said lightly at the side. It would be inauspicious if someone were to die during a wedding. Yi Hua felt that what his mother said was reasonable. Originally, he just wanted to wash away his bad luck and sweep away his bad luck. Today is my little brother's big day, I do not wish to see blood. I will deal with this matter later. Yi Hua shouted out coldly. Towards his little brother, he was already being extremely benevolent. If it was in the past, his little brother would definitely not be alive. Yi Juetian let out a heavy sigh. Luckily, big brother gave me face. If not, Yi would definitely be dead. Gong Yu's expression was very bad. Big brother emperor actually spared Yi, how is this possible? For her to say such words in front of all of the guests, isn't this the same as throwing away big brother emperor's face? Fortunately, the red veil covered her face, or else Gong Yu's twisted face would have been exposed. Qian Yuqing and the others let out a sigh of relief. Yi Hua's decision was a wise one. He did not cause any deaths during the wedding, that would be inauspicious. No. I'm not a spy. Yi Juetian. I'm not a spy. Yi, who was originally silent, suddenly erupted. Her pair of red eyes looked at Yi Juetian, who was on the stairs. How miserable and sorrowful is that? How much suffering did I have to suffer? I believed in you, yet you don't believe in me. Yi Juetian was stupefied by Yi, because Yi had never acted like this before. That heart-wrenching and lung-splitting voice was transmitted into Yi Hua's mind, shattering his heart. Yi Hua had originally wanted to let her off today, but I didn't expect that she would become even worse. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Qian Yuqing seemed to be able to understand Yi's feelings. Back then, Yi Hua was also incomparably cold towards me, and at that time, I even had the heart to die. Luckily, this scoundrel Yi Hua was lying to me, and I almost scared my soul off. End of this chapter. Chapter 1159. However, the situation right now was different. Huang Feidi had died, and right now, there was no one to testify against him. How was it possible for Yi to wash away the injustice? However, right at this moment, Qian Yuqing's eyes lit up, and she suddenly thought of a good idea. Soul Gem. The spirit gem was still in his hands. This should be the only thing that could prove Yi's innocence. Justice for Yi. Perhaps it was because they were in the same boat, Qian Yuqing said, Yi Hua, I have something that can prove whether Yi is a spy or not. Yi Hua looked towards Qian Yuqing. His meaning was very clear. Do you want to get involved in this matter as well? Yi Hua, this is the spirit gem from back then. That Huang Yun won't be able to withstand this. Let Yi give it a try. If she is a spy, then just kill her. If she isn't a spy, then husband, please deal with her leniently. Qian Yuqing said in a low voice. She did not let anyone else hear her, but Yi Juetian and Gong Yu, who were closer to her, heard her. Yi Juetian was very excited because he believed that Yi was not a spy. But Gong Yu was not happy. He knew that Yi wasn't a spy, but if Yi's name was cleared, this was not good for him. Should I say something now? Otherwise, I won't have the chance anymore. Gong Yu didn't dare to say it. If she stopped him now, she would become a suspect. Yi Hua looked at the spirit gem and slightly wrinkled his brows. His expression was very tense. Yi Hua, why don't you give it a try? At least there will be a result. Lu Jing spoke, and all of the daughters-in-law let out a breath of relief. Yi Hua said gravely, all right. Yi, this emperor will give you another chance. Hearing his big brother's words, Yi Juetian was very happy. Yi could finally clear her name. However, Yi, who was kneeling on the ground, didn't have any feelings at all, because Yi Juetian didn't believe in her. Right now, there was already no meaning in trying to explain anything to him. A man who didn't believe in me, and I even foolishly gave up everything for him, he was so stupid. Qian Yuqing took the heart gem and walked towards Yi. Everyone was able to admire the beauty of the empress up close. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Qian Yuqing was the most beautiful woman in the gods' realm, and that was not just for show. Actually, Yi wasn't bad either. It was just that her aura wasn't there yet. Yi, take this. It can prove your innocence. Qian Yuqing helped Yi up and encouraged her. Everyone looked at the spirit gem in Qian Yuqing's hand and felt quite confused. They did not know what this spirit gem was used for. However, this mind gem was a lie detector. Yi looked at the bead in Qian Yuqing's hand. A small bead could make her innocent, but could it build trust again? Yi Juetian, I will never trust you again. I will never trust you again in this lifetime. If I could, I would rather be spurned by everyone on the street than kneel here and be distrusted by you. Yi. Qian Yuqing called out softly. Qian Yuqing realized that Yi had changed a little at this moment. She seemed to have become a stranger. Yi took over the spirit gem and held it in her hand. Yi couldn't feel any emotions anymore. In this world, there is already nothing left for me to remember, the only person I have left has also passed away. Qian Yuqing took a deep breath and shouted at the crowd, everyone, this is the soul gem, it can detect lies. If you're not lying, the spirit gem will shine brightly, otherwise it will dim. After that, Qian Yuqing looked at Yi and asked in a deep voice, Yi. Are you a spy? Everyone held their breath at this moment. Not knowing why, the life and death of this palace made affected everyone's emotions. Even Fan Jin was the same. Looking at this infatuated woman, even Fan Jin felt that she was wronged. Qian Yuqing looked at Yi closely and waited for the result. Meanwhile, Yi, who was holding onto the soul gem, slightly raised her head and looked towards Yi Juetian. Yi could feel that Yi Juetian wanted to hear the result. He doesn't believe me. I'm just a joke, Yi shouted out loudly, I'm a spy. Following that, everyone became puzzled. They didn't know what was going on. Wasn't Yi trying to clarify just now? Why did she admit to it now? In actuality, Yi was mocking those people who didn't believe in her. Yi Hua could feel Yi's mockery, and his expression became incomparably gloomy. I was actually mocked by a woman. However, after a short while, the soul gem in Yi's hand didn't emit any light at all. On the contrary, it became dim. The entire crowd went into an uproar. This palace may just said a lie. She isn't a spy. Qian Yuqing revealed out a smile. I knew that Yi isn't a spy. Yi Juetian was also very happy. How could Yi be a spy? She really scared him badly. Qingye and the others also let out a sigh of relief. It's good that he isn't a spy, everything is just a misunderstanding. However, right now, Yi Hua's mood became even worse. Yi is actually not a spy. That damned Huang Feidi lied to me. And I actually foolishly believed it. That damned Huang Feidi. I shouldn't have let White Bones kill him so easily, I should have ruthlessly tortured him. You actually lied to me. In actuality, it was very normal for Yi Hua to be deceived. His mother's life was on the verge of death, and Yi Hua was completely unable to maintain a calm mind. Furthermore, Yi was indeed a suspect, and all of these were very reasonable. However, only these women, with their sixth sense, felt that Yi was not a spy, so sometimes, what they saw and heard might not be true. Only at this moment did Yi Hua realize that not only was his face slapped by a dead person, his face was also slapped by Yi who was below him. Hee hee, hee hee. Yi Hua revealed a self-mocking smile on his face. How many years has it been? I, the Supreme Overlord, was actually played by someone. My intelligence was fiercely rubbed on the ground. In actuality, Lu Jing had always felt that Yi wasn't a spy, just that Yi was rather stupid. Right now, seeing that Yi was able to prove herself, Lu Jing felt at ease. Gong Yu's mood was very bad right now. I didn't expect that sister-in-law would have such a method to save Yi, this foolish woman. I will think of a way in the future. Let's settle this marriage first. At the very least, I will have a status, while you don't have a status. When everyone saw that Yi was able to prove her innocence, a smile appeared on their faces. It wasn't easy for this little palace maid. It wasn't known who started clapping, but everyone started clapping and cheering for Yi. As an ordinary palace maid, for Yi to be able to face such a powerful empire, even Fan Jin would feel ashamed of his own inferiority. Qian Yuqing stretched out her hand and wiped away the tears that were at the corner of Yi's eyes, then said tenderly, "All right, everything is fine now." Yi returned the spirit gem that was in her hand to Qian Yuqing, then said lightly, "Empress, thank you. It's good that you are fine now, go back and have a good rest later." "And, I indeed need to have a good rest," Yi said lightly, but Qian Yuqing didn't understand the meaning behind Yi's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 1160. The rest that Yi was talking about was to rest for a long time, to rest forever. "I'm tired, I'm really tired." Qian Yuqing walked towards the stairs in satisfaction, but before she even took a few steps, Qian Yuqing heard Yi Juetian shouting out loudly, "Yi." However, everyone in the surroundings immediately stood up, and their gazes were filled with shock and puzzlement. Fan Jin didn't understand. Why did this palace maid want to do this? Didn't I already explain it clearly? Qian Yuqing turned her head around and looked towards Yi. She didn't know what happened, but Qingye and the others had clearly seen what happened just now, and they were all stupefied. Even Yi Hua had seen what happened just now, and his entire body felt unwell. If Yi's innocence just now was equivalent to slapping my face, then what Yi is doing right now is equivalent to mocking me. She doesn't need my forgiveness at all. This was the first time Yi Hua had seen such a woman, and he was clearly feeling very heavy. In fact, he was even pondering over what happened to Yi. Was I really wrong? She actually used her death to tell everyone that she doesn't need other people's pity. This ordinary woman. She actually defeated me. Yi Juetian directly rushed towards Yi. Gong Yu didn't stop him, because just now, Yi had already swallowed the poison that Gong Yu had given to her, and this poison was incurable. Gong Yu had originally kept it for herself, but after coming here, she discovered that she didn't need it at all. "Don't come over." Yi took a few steps back, then pointed at Yi Juetian and shouted out. Yi Juetian stopped his footsteps, and tears flowed down from his eyes. "Yi, why, didn't everything end?" "That's right, everything has ended, I'm tired. I don't want to continue living with you anymore." Yi revealed out a smile. How many days has it been? This was the most natural smile that Yi revealed out. This was a type of release, this was a type of relaxation. Right now, Yi's heart was very calm, and there wasn't a single trace of reluctance. Yi Juetian didn't understand why Yi would choose to end her own life. "We can still continue living, Yi, can you believe in me?" Yi looked towards the blue sky once again and said lightly, "No, I won't believe in you anymore, please let me go, Yi." "I won't, don't leave me." Yi Juetian shouted out. Why did this happen? Just what did I do wrong? The people around them seemed to be able to feel this desolation. This was a pair of lovers with a bitter fate. It was a touching scene. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were both sobbing. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that Yi would be like this. Qing Yutong looked at Yi blankly, and tears slowly flowed down from her eyes. This silly girl, why is she so silly? Gong Yu was very happy. The matter is finally settled. Cracks appeared on Yi's body, giving off a white light. Yi could feel the peace before death. She no longer had to think about how he was doing. Has he eaten? Was he hungry? Did he rest well? Yi Juetian looked at Yi's face. Those cracks had already caused Yi's face to become blurry. However, Yi still had one last thing to say. "If I could turn back time, I wouldn't go with you," Yi said softly, but her voice contained too much bitterness. Everyone could tell that this girl really did not have it easy. Yi slowly raised her head and took one last look at Wushu Empire's blue sky. "It's really very blue, Yi." Yi Juetian immediately ran towards Yi and hugged onto Yi's body. However, Yi's body shattered into pieces within Yi Juetian's embrace. Just like how Yi Juetian's heart shattered into pieces, the sparkling and translucent pieces fell onto the ground, and Yi Juetian looked at the pieces on the ground stupidly. After an unknown amount of time, Yi Juetian slowly squatted down and touched the pieces with his trembling hands. That pair of clear eyes of his did not carry any nostalgia at all. His tears fell onto the pieces, and as Yi Juetian picked up the pieces, his heart ached to the point that he couldn't breathe. That girl who loved to smile, her smile just now was so sweet, yet at the very end, her smile was one of release. Perhaps it was just like what Yi had said just now, I shouldn't have allowed her to follow me. If not, how could things have turned out like this? How much grievance and pain did I make Yi suffer? Now that Yi is free, who is going to free me? Yi, I only want you to live. I have always believed in you from the start. Yi Juetian hugged the pieces in his embrace, as if he was hugging Yi again, and he could even feel the warmth of Yi's body. Yi, I will bring you out of this place, I shouldn't have brought you here. Just like that, everyone watched as Yi Juetian left. No one stopped him, not even Yi Hua. Yi Hua only instructed Yi Zizi to look after Yi Juetian and not let him do anything foolish. As long as Yi is able to die, Yi Juetian will be mine. Now, it will be my turn to console Yi Juetian and let him walk out of this sorrow. Right now, Yi Hua tightly clenched his fists. This woman is making me feel so uncomfortable. At this moment, Jiu Yang slowly woke up, and he sized up the surroundings with a confused gaze. Noticing that the people in the surroundings seemed to be very heavy, he then secretly looked towards the emperor who was on the stairs, and his expression was incomparably heavy. However, that palace maid from earlier had already disappeared, she must have been executed. In that case, she is definitely going to kill me next. Jiu Yang immediately fainted again. How big of a matter is this? Is there a need to fight to the death? It's not like there is a deep hatred between us. Yi Hua directly disappeared from his seat and did not say anything. His mood was extremely bad right now. Qingye could sense Yi Hua's hesitation. Yi's matter might have given Yi Hua a deep lesson. Lu Jing didn't expect that the happy occasion would end up like this. However, right now, she had no choice but to stand up and speak. Everyone, due to a situation that occurred, today's wedding ceremony is temporarily cancelled. Thank you for coming. Lu Jing said lightly, then let Yi Yuanqing who was beside her support her down the stairs. This is terrible. At this moment, Qian Yuqing was still standing on the stairs blankly, feeling that everything that happened just now was just like a dream. At this moment, Qingye and the others had also left the wedding ceremony. As the groomsmen and bridesmaids, they had to arrange for everyone to leave the wedding ceremony. However, what happened today would be spread throughout the entire north tomorrow. As for how it would be spread, an emperor hounding a palace maid to death, there would definitely be such a version. Where's Yi Hua? Where did he go? Qingye searched the entire bedroom, but was unable to find Yi Hua's shadow. I didn't find him here either. Dong Huang Baiji said anxiously. This Yi Hua couldn't have taken things too hard, right? Qing Yutong let out a light sigh, brother-in-law suffered a blow today. Huang Feidi's teasing and Yi's decisiveness caused brother-in-law to feel very uncomfortable. Qingye rubbed onto her forehead and said gravely, that's right, Yi Hua rarely wronged others, but this time, he wronged others. Furthermore, the palace maid had already died to show her sincerity, there is no need for Yi Hua's charity. End of this chapter. Chapter 1161. This is my first time seeing Yi Hua like this. Dong Huang Baiji said concernedly. In the past, Yi would always have a calm look on his face, as if everything was within his grasp. However, this time, Yi had completely miscalculated. Even in such a situation, Yi had chosen to commit suicide. Wasn't this the same as telling Yi Hua, my life is not under your control? The problem is, where did Yi Hua run off to? Qingye asked worriedly. He is already a few thousand years old, how can he still go missing? Does he think that I am still a child? Qing Yutong suddenly clapped her hands, I know where brother-in-law went. However, Right now, Yi Hua was currently sitting inside the bedroom of Leisure Bar, and the television was currently playing Calabash Brothers Saving Grandpa. Only by watching this would Yi Hua's mood be able to calm down. Every time when Yi Hua was in a bad mood, he would quietly sit down and watch cartoons. Right now, Yi Hua was incomparably serious as he watched the battle. However, his heart was very heavy. Was I really wrong this time? How could this woman be so powerful? She had already proven her innocence, yet it still ended in death in the end. Especially when Yi Hua saw his younger brother desperately hugging onto Yi and his younger brother's shattered body, Yi Hua found it hard to accept such a scene. Wrong. Wrong. This time, I, the Supreme Overlord, am really wrong. This girl, Yi, has really let me see what is wrong. 3 beautiful figures appeared behind Yi Hua. Seeing that Yi Hua was sitting on the sofa and watching Calabash Brothers saving his grandfather, Qing Ye and the others finally felt at ease. This fellow, seems like Qing Yutong understands this brother-in-law quite well, and knows that he definitely ran over here. Although the 3 wives had already found Yi Hua, they didn't disturb Yi Hua from watching the cartoon. They knew that Yi Hua was currently reflecting on himself. It was a pity for Yi and the infatuated Yi Juetian to learn from this matter. On the other side, Yi Juetian carried the fragment and walked out of Voidless Empire. Yi Zizi followed behind him. After leaving Voidless Empire, the temperature started to plummet, and the snow that filled the sky seemed to be silently mourning for Yi. Yi Juetian muttered to himself. Actually, I really want to walk in the snow with you, but in the Imperial Palace, I don't dare to come find you. I'm afraid you'll be in danger. We are finally out now, out of the Imperial Palace, out of Wushu Empire, Yi. I'm sorry. Yi Juetian said with a heavy tone. He suddenly felt that something was wrong. The fragment in his bosom was gradually dissipating, causing Yi Juetian to panic. Yi. The fragments fell onto the snowy ground. Yi Juetian frantically picked up the fragments, but these fragments were quickly dissipating. Those spirited eyes disappeared from Yi Juetian's eyes. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't bring back those sweet memories. In just a few breaths of time, all the fragments had disappeared. Yi Juetian sat paralyzed on the snowy ground, staring at the sky. It was as if he had lost his soul, and regret flowed out from the corners of his eyes. Swish, swish, swish. A series of footsteps rang out behind Yi Juetian. Yi Zizi sucked on her lollipop and stood beside Yi Juetian. After a long time, she asked, "Do you blame your big brother?" "I blame myself for not protecting her properly." Yi Juetian said powerlessly. "I can't even protect the woman I love. What kind of man am I?" Yi Zizi let out a long sigh. "I feel that Yi is a good girl, so I gave her my favorite lollipop." Yi Juetian didn't say anything. Even now, he still couldn't accept the fact that Yi had already died. "I hope that on the other side, there is only sweetness and no pain," Yi Zizi said faintly. Illusory land. At this moment, an anomaly appeared. The entire sky became multicolored, and a sacred aura appeared. All of the animals let out low roars, and some even knelt on the ground. All of the animals faced a single direction and lowered their heads. This kind of anomaly appeared in every corner of the illusory land, and everyone felt this baptism. Within a small forest, 2 old men were currently playing chess. One of them, who was placing down a chess piece, suddenly stopped and raised his head to look at the sky. The entire sky was like a sunset, and all sorts of birds let out joyful cries. The old man didn't place his chess piece down and placed it back into the round box. Seems like this ant succeeded in her tribulation. It truly wasn't easy. She is the first female deity in the 9 provinces and 5 seas. The old man said with a slight smile. "Brother Eastern Emperor, this congratulatory gift should have been sent up long ago, right?" "Brother Jiang, that is only natural." One of the 2 old men was Eastern Emperor family's leader, Eastern Emperor Jishang, and the other was Jiang family's leader, Jiang Wuyu. Jiang Wuyu scooped a bowl of clear spring water and poured it into the bamboo cups of the two old men, then said softly, "But then again, this aunt's final tribulation should be the love tribulation, right? Looking at the time, it hasn't even been half a year, right? Brother Jiang, which do you think is more painful, short or long?" Eastern Emperor Jishang asked softly, then picked up a black chess piece at the side and placed it down. Jiang Wuyu looked at Jiang Wuyu, then picked up a white chess piece with his index and middle fingers. When a relationship reaches a certain level, it doesn't matter if it's long or short. Perhaps it's more painful if it's short, but if it's long, it'll be forgotten. Then, do you still remember her? Eastern Emperor Jishang asked softly. The white chess piece in Jiang Wuyu's hand trembled for a moment, then lightly placed it down. "A beauty has already passed away, and even if I want to forget her, I still can't. This love tribulation is truly the most difficult of all tribulations. I wonder if this aunt will be able to face it calmly." Eastern Emperor Jishang placed a black chess piece down and said faintly. Jiang Wuyu took a sip of the clear spring water and said softly, "How many women have been destroyed by this love tribulation? It all depends on fate now. Sometimes, being heartless isn't a bad thing. What is love in the world?" Jiang Wuyu let out a long sigh, seemingly recalling his own love tribulation. Eastern Emperor Jishang smiled, "Without painstaking love, one wouldn't be able to sigh like you. Don't talk about me. Isn't your love tribulation the same as yours?" Jiang Wuyu also reminisced for a while. After so many years had passed, Jiang Wuyu had long seen through his love tribulation. Eastern Emperor Jishang smiled in self-mockery and didn't say anything. However, in the small city with a courtyard, all of the residents could feel a sacred feeling, and all of them knelt down towards a tall building in the middle of the city. Everyone's face was filled with deep joy. Ant finally became a deity. Originally, I thought that it would take at least 100 years for Ant to become a deity, but who would have thought that in less than half a year, Ant would successfully become a deity. 9 provinces and 5 seas first deity. Deity Meng Yao. However, on top of the tall building, a woman was sitting cross-legged. This woman was very beautiful, very beautiful. She wasn't someone else. She was precisely Yi. PFFF. A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Meng Yao's mouth, and the blood splattered onto the wooden board. Meng Yao gasped for breath. Her left hand was supporting herself on the wooden board, and her right hand was holding onto her chest. "It hurts. My heart hurts, Meng Yao." At this moment, the wooden door was pushed open, and a woman appeared. This woman was precisely Meng Yao's cousin, Meng Li. Meng Yao waved her hand. "I'm fine." End of this chapter. Chapter 1162. Looking at the pool of blood on the ground, Meng Li was very worried. With her brows wrinkled, she asked, "Meng Yao," this time, before Meng Li could finish, Meng Yao said softly, "Let me sit alone for a while." Seeing Meng Yao like this, Meng Li knew that love tribulations were painful. Meng Li didn't try to persuade her and slowly left the room to let Meng Yao calm down. Right now, her thoughts must be very chaotic. Meng Yao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and slowly stood up, subconsciously touching her pocket. He took out a white cloth and slowly opened it. There was a pink lollipop inside. Meng Yao held it in her mouth as she stared at the sky. "You owe me. Give them back to me." Thinking back to the past few months, Meng Yao felt as if someone was tearing her heart apart. "Yi Juetian. I trust you so much. But you treat me like this. And Gong Yu. Yi is a stupid woman. But I, Meng Yao, am not stupid. You deliberately made me cause trouble today because you wanted me to die. So it turns out that what you've shown was all hypocrisy. You won't die. How can I dispel the hatred in my heart?" Meng Yao put the lollipop in her mouth back into a handkerchief and wrapped it up properly. Everyone said that love tribulations were hard to deal with. It would make people wish they were dead. Yes. Pain, even if I become a god, my heart will still feel pain. Yi Juetian. You're so cruel to me. Meng Li. Meng Yao called out softly. Meng Li pushed the door open and entered. She stood behind Meng Yao and leaned forward slightly. Meng Yao, are you feeling all right? Bring me the blood sun cleansing flower. Meng Li furrowed her brows and asked in puzzlement, Meng Yao, what do you want the blood yang purification flower for? That is. Don't ask any more. I don't want to owe others, but others owe me. You must return it. Meng Yao coldly said. She had wasted the Empress Dowager's medicine, and she didn't have much time left. This was her fault, she would pay for it. But those who bullied me, none of them will have it easy. But, the blood sun purifying flower is passed down from generation to generation. I'm afraid. If there's anything, I will bear it myself. Go and get it, all right, calm down, Meng Yao. Meng Li advised in a low voice. She felt that Meng Yao had suffered a lot. Otherwise, why would she have such a reaction? She had even vomited blood after returning. Meng Yao, I don't care what you're going to do, but I still hope that you can rest for a few days. Your current condition isn't very good. I know. Meng Yao nodded, before sitting down cross-legged. If she didn't vent her anger, she wouldn't be able to swallow it. Inside Leisure Bar, Yihua had already watched cartoons for the entire morning. After switching off the television, Yihua said lightly, let's go back. During this entire morning, Yihua reflected on his actions. During this period of time, my temper has become a lot more irritable, and my thinking also lacks judgment. Although this matter caused Yihua to suffer a setback, it was also a profound lesson that would allow Yihua to find out his own inadequacies, and from there, improve his own inadequacies, allow himself to become more and more perfect, and not allow his judgment to be affected by some emotions. Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baiji supported Qing Yutong. We are still in the middle of a Cold War, it would be inappropriate for us to be too concerned about Qing Yutong. Qing Yutong was also speechless. He was obviously worried to death, yet he still wanted to save face. Brother-in-law, are you all right? Qing Yutong asked concernedly. It's been a long time since I've seen brother-in-law so dejected, and my heart ached for him. Yihua shook his head, expressing that he was all right. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji couldn't bear it anymore. In actuality, she had wanted to talk about this problem since a long time ago. Yihua, do you know that your ideals right now are very bad? When did you start to have the idea that two people are of equal status? Although Yi is just an ordinary person, her bravery is even stronger than those sect masters and sect masters. You are too shallow. Seeing that Dong Huang Baiji had already spoken, Qing Ye also had to express her opinion. What Baiji said is right, Yihua, you are already looking down on others regarding this matter. Thinking back then, do you know who I am? Do you know who Baiji is? Didn't you still have sex with us without saying anything? At that time, did you ever think that we are worthy of you, the Supreme Overlord? Yihua, you really have to properly reflect on yourself. Ever since you became the emperor, you have changed a lot, you are now the same as those emperors on television. After Qing Ye finished speaking to Dong Huang Baiji, she was prepared to be lectured by Yihua. Hearing that, Yihua remained silent for a long time. In the end, he said lightly, let's go back and see how little Tian is doing. After finished speaking, Yihua disappeared from the sofa. Qing Ye and the others were very puzzled. This act tough King Yi is not going to flip out. He wanted to hurry back and see how his mother-in-law was doing. After such a thing happened, his mother-in-law should be feeling terrible. Yi's death simply made everyone unhappy. Qing Ye and the others arrived at Lu Jing's palace. Qian Yuqing was by Lu Jing's side, and Daji was serving her. However, Lu Jing's complexion was not very good. It was a little pale, but it was very rosy before. Mother, what happened to you? Qing Ye hurriedly walked forward and held on to Lu Jing's hand. Lu Jing revealed a gentle smile. It's okay. Mother is fine. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Qian Yuqing. The meaning of her question was very obvious. However, Qian Yuqing's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. Her mother was also grieved when she saw how sad little Tian was, causing the poison to spread even faster. Just a while ago, I drank another bottle of Spirit Spring, and only then did I feel slightly better. However, right now, there wasn't much Spirit Spring left. If I still can't find the antidote, I'm afraid that I'll be in danger. Silly child, mother is very well. Lu Jing consoled her daughters-in-law. Lu Jing knew that her illness had already reached its end. Mother, I'll go and look for Yi Hua to think of a way. Qingye couldn't be bothered with the Cold War anymore. Right now, only Yi Hua can save her mother. However, Yi Hua also had no other way. There was no progress in Zhu Tian's research, and the only person who could solve the problem, Qing Su, had also disappeared. Lu Jing held on to Qingye's hand. Don't go, Yi Hua is already very unhappy today. Don't let mother's illness bother him anymore. Everyone was like this, even if they were sick, they wouldn't want to tell their son about it, in case their son would worry about them. But mother, we can't drag this on any longer. Dong Huang Baiji said anxiously, and her eyes were already red. Forget it then, you all can accompany mother and have a chat. Lu Jing said with a slight smile. In actuality, being able to see that Yi Hua didn't die was already enough for her to feel relieved. Being able to see little Tian getting married was already a blessing from the heavens. The four daughters-in-law could only tightly hold on to their mother-in-law's hand. Even if their strength was extraordinary, when they encountered some rare illnesses, they were completely helpless. Right now, Yi Hua found Yi Juetian through Yi Zizi. Yi Juetian was currently in an inn. This inn was the place that Yi stayed in back then, and to Yi Juetian, this inn was a place that had commemorative value. Are you alright? Yi Hua asked Yi Zizi. End of chapter. Chapter 1163. Yi Zizi said respectfully, Your Honor, he is still fine, it's just that he hasn't come out yet. And, you can go back and rest. Yi Hua said with his hands behind his back. All right. This subordinate will take his leave. After saying that, Yi Zizi disappeared. Yi Hua pushed open the door and entered into the room, and saw that his little brother was currently drinking cup after cup, and a blush had already appeared on his little brother's face. Yi Hua did not say anything and just sat in front of his brother, then poured himself a cup of wine. The two brothers drank in silence, and neither of them spoke first. Little Tian, Yi is indeed a good girl, just a little stupid. Yi Hua said faintly. Although I have clarified that I am not a spy, it is still a fact that I have wasted my mother's life-saving medicine. Yi Juetian revealed a bleak smile, Big brother, I just like her stupidity. I've never seen a girl like her before. She's so stupid that it breaks my heart. Perhaps, I shouldn't have forced you from the very beginning. Yi Hua said in a low voice. Just now, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji's words had awakened the main Supreme Overlord. When did I, the Supreme Overlord, become that kind of person? Could it be that my mind has been affected by the riches and honor in front of me, and I feel that only powerful women are worthy of my younger brother? Or, could it be that only powerful women are worthy of marrying into the family? I'm not thinking for my younger brother, I'm thinking for myself. I believe that only the strong are qualified to enter the Yi clan. However, was Qingye a powerful expert back then? She's just a boss, a woman who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Didn't I like her back then? For her, he had put down his pride a few times. What's the difference between Yi and Qingye from back then? Yi is fine on my own, but it won't work on my little brother. Sometimes, only when something has happened, would one know what is wrong. Right now, Yi Hua could be considered to have realized that he shouldn't have forcefully imposed his own wishes onto his younger brother. Of course, there was also the children. Back then, when I let them go out, I also carried a bit of selfishness within me. However, the Supreme Overlord's intention was good, it was just that he used the wrong method. Yi Juetian slowly raised his head and looked at his big brother in front of him. He cried out miserably, Big brother, it's too late to say anything now. Yi is already dead. Yihua patted on his younger brother's shoulder, then picked up the wine pot and poured a cup of wine. Come. Let's drink till we're drunk. The two brothers drank without restraint. They didn't use any magic to disperse it. They just drank with the bodies of ordinary people. It was very rare for Yihua to get drunk, and it could be said that he had never gotten drunk before. Today, he was accompanying his little brother to get drunk, and he was also letting himself indulge for once. His mother's illness, Wei Chang's disappearance, Qing Su's escape with Dou Fusher, and of course, Yi's death. The two brothers were completely drunk and had begun to let themselves loose. Furthermore, he wasn't doing it in his room, but on the streets. The surrounding people were simply dumbstruck. His Majesty, and His Highness. Which one is the Majesty? How did he get so drunk? The news quickly spread to the palace, and when Qingye and the others heard about it, black lines appeared on their foreheads. Yihua and Yi Juetian are both drunk? What was going on? And you are even peeing on the streets. Do you not want your dignity as an emperor anymore? Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi hurriedly left the palace, and Gong Yu followed behind them as well. However, on the street, Xiao Tian, big brother will bring you to the brothel to play. Yihua held on to his little brother's shoulder and said happily. Big brother, I want a dozen. Alright, let us brothers fight one-on-one. Yihua said drunkenly, and a drunken smile could be seen on his face. It was very rare for Yihua to be in such a state. The surrounding people were all discussing. His Majesty brought Prince to a brothel. My God. I wonder if applying to be a courtesan queen would be of any use or not. I really want to be rubbed against by the brothers together. However, right when Yihua and Yi Juetian were about to enter, Qingye and the others finally arrived, and they brought Yihua and Yi Juetian along as they disappeared from the spot. The girls standing at the entrance of the brothel had been extremely excited just a moment ago, but suddenly, they had disappeared. It was as if they had reached the pinnacle of their lives, only to fall from the sky. That kind of feeling of loss was incomparably painful. In the imperial palace, they appeared again. Yihua took a look at Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi who were beside him, then immediately hugged them into his embrace and kissed them. Wives, when did you two arrive? Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi could smell a strong smell of alcohol, and both of them wrinkled their brows. He actually brought his younger brother to that kind of place. Shameless. Meanwhile, Yi Juetian who was at the side was being supported by Gong Yu. However, Gong Yu wasn't as lucky as Yihua. Why did you only arrive now? Big brother was preparing to bring me to a brothel just now. Along with Yi Juetian's words, the smile on Gong Yu's face gradually disappeared. He is already so drunk, yet his mind is still filled with Yi. Yi is already dead. It is impossible for her to appear again. Yihua looked at his younger brother and smiled. Little Tian, chasing a girl is a skill. Do you know how big brother managed to chase after your sister-in-law? Big brother, please teach your little brother. Yi Juetian cupped his hands and laughed loudly. Yihua laughed loudly. All right. In actuality, the skill lies in a single word. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi immediately felt that something was wrong. That is to do it. This way, they will be able to be obedient, isn't that right, wife? Qingye immediately covered Yihua's mouth. This scoundrel, to actually talk nonsense when he is drunk. It is fortunate that we are not in a place with many people, if not, we would have lost face. Donghuang Baizhi said to Gong Yu, bring little Tian back and take good care of him. I understand, sister-in-law. Gong Yu nodded her head seriously. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi supported Yihua back. Meanwhile, Yi Juetian leaned onto Gong Yu's shoulder and said drunkenly, just now, big brother said. Can I do that to you? Gong Yu simply wanted to whip Yihua's corpse. Even though this woman is dead, she is still forcefully occupying my man. Stabilizing her good temper, Gong Yu laughed tenderly, Yay, I am your woman, of course I can accompany you. You are the best, I will love you for my entire life. Yi Juetian said in a low voice, then completely fainted. Gong Yu's face was gloomy as she tightly clenched her fists. Damned lowly slut. Inside Yihua's bedroom, something that made Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi depressed was currently happening. I am not going to take off my clothes. I am going to sleep. You guys don't need to care about me. Yihua shouted out with a coquettish tone as he used the blanket to cover himself. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were stupefied. Is this Yihua or not? To actually speak with this kind of tone, this is simply ruining our worldview. Darling, be obedient. Let's take off our clothes, take a hot bath, and then go to sleep. Qingye coaxed Yihua as if she was coaxing her son. Back then, Qingye also coaxed her son like this. Meanwhile, Yihua, who was hiding inside the blanket, let out a whining sound. This caused Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi to be astonished. Yihua actually turned into a whining monster. End of this chapter. Chapter 1164. Donghuang Baizhi placed her hands on her waist and shouted, Yihua. If you are still not obedient, I am going to beat you up. Needless to say, it was really effective. Yihua, who was on the bed, immediately became quiet. Qingye opened the blanket and discovered that Yihua was actually curled up into a ball, as if he was very afraid. Originally, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi felt that Yihua was playing around, but they discovered that Yihua was actually trembling. Such a reaction caused the two wives to feel puzzled. I am so scared. Yihua muttered. Hearing Yihua's words, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi became absent-minded. In their impression, when had Yihua ever been scared? No matter how strong the enemy was, he would always face it calmly and use his strength to crush the enemy. But today, Yihua actually said such words. This made Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi's heart ache. Recently, Yihua had been carrying too many things on his shoulders. The two women sat on the bed and hugged this man who had just let go of his defense. Don't be afraid, we will always be by your side. Qingye said tenderly, and her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Donghuang Baizhi was the same as she lightly caressed Yihua's hair. Yihua muttered, I am scared that I won't be able to save my mother. I just saw her, I don't want to lose her so quickly. We will find a way, we will definitely find a way. Qingye was incomparably sad. Yihua's fear wasn't from his enemies, but from losing his family. No matter how strong Yihua was, he would still try his best to make up for the loss in his life. That kind of loss would make one wish that they were dead, and Yi Juetian was lost today. There is also Wei Chang, that fellow is so strong, yet he disappeared just like that. Don't you know that I am very worried about you? Although Yihua didn't say it, he was actually very worried about Wei Chang. In order to maintain his face as a supreme overlord, he didn't express his worry. Is it easy to be a boss? There is also that Qing Su, I really can't do anything to him. Yihua muttered. This matter was pressing on his chest, and he was completely powerless. This world is so big, where am I supposed to find him? Donghuang Baizhi said tenderly, as if she was comforting her son, Yihua, don't be discouraged, we will slowly overcome this difficulty. And, don't be anxious, have a good sleep. Tomorrow, we will work hard together. However, Yihua, who was in her bosom, was already letting out a smooth breathing sound. Lowering her head to take a look, this fellow had already fallen asleep. The two of them took a look at each other, then took off Yihua's clothes, wiped his body, and let out a sigh of relief. Let him have a good sleep. Recently, Yihua has been too tired. Qingye said in a low voice, fearing that she would disturb Yihua. Donghuang Baizhi nodded her head, and the two of them quietly exited the bedroom. That night, Yihua had a dream. In the leisure bar, everyone was celebrating the arrival of the new year. Everyone had come. His mother was hugging Ali and the others happily. Wei Chang, who went missing, came, and he was even carrying a child, and he seemed to be very happy. There was also that damned fatty Qing Su who was bragging to Do Fusher with a silly smile on his face. even the dead Yi appeared. Everyone was present, and the scene was very warm. Yi Hua. Yi Hua. Ye Hua. In the dream, Yi Hua heard someone calling out to him. Who is it that is calling out to me? Yi Hua looked to his left and right, but everyone seemed to be in their own world, as if he didn't exist at all. Yi Hua. Yi Hua. Yi Hua. The voice seemed to be very urgent, and there was even a tone of fear in it. Along with his body shaking violently, Yi Hua suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Qian Yuqing, who had a frightened expression on her face. So that was just a dream. Rubbing onto his forehead, Yi Hua asked faintly, Yuqing, what's wrong? Qian Yuqing's eyes were filled with shock, and she said gravely, Yi Hua, she. Yi Hua was puzzled. She came back. What? Yi Hua immediately sat up. How is this possible? Didn't Yi die? How is it possible for her to come back? Could this be a dream as well? At this moment, Qing Ye and Qing Yutong ran over, and their eyes were filled with shock. Yi Hua looked at Qing Ye and asked gravely, Yi came back? Qing Ye nodded her head, but Qing Yutong said gravely, but Yi, she seems to be different from before. Dong Huang Baiji let out a sigh, then walked over slowly. She came back to settle the debt. Yi Hua tightly wrinkled his brows. Half an hour ago, no. I should be calling her deity Mengyao now. The current Mengyao was no longer that down-and-out Yi from before. She was dressed in a pure white dress with hundreds of butterflies on it, a multicolored flower brocade draped over her shoulders, and a heavenly phoenix hairpin on her head. This was the real Yi. She was completely different from the Yi who was dressed in a palace-made dress. The current Yi no longer had a smile on her face, and a cold aura was hovering around her body. Meng Yao slightly raised her head and looked towards the city wall, as if everything that happened just yesterday. Under the astonished gazes of the surrounding people, Meng Yao walked into Wushu Empire. Everything felt so familiar. Meng Yao did not anxiously go to the palace. Instead, she came to that street. That day, I was surrounded by a group of children and was being ridiculed, and he was the one who extended a helping hand, but was that really helping hand? It wasn't. Meng Yao continued to walk, and the surrounding people were all discussing in low voices. This woman looks so cold and aloof. Who is she? Meng Yao came to the tavern that she stayed in before, and it was still the same room. Sitting in this familiar room, Meng Yao laughed at herself, laughing at her own stupidity. I have sacrificed so much for this man, but what I got in return was his distrust. Slowly closing her eyes, Meng Yao could still feel the pain and bitterness in her heart. She couldn't help but take out a lollipop and put it in her mouth, and her mood became slightly better. After sitting for a while, Yi disappeared from the room and arrived at the entrance of the palace. Looking at the black armored warriors on both sides of the room and the majestic palace entrance, I, who entered the palace for the first time, felt so happy. That was because I was able to see him, but who knew? Meng Yao walked towards the entrance of the palace. The black armored warriors on both sides immediately blocked Meng Yao and shouted, "Back off." Meng Yao couldn't help but think back to that day. When she came to look for him, she was pushed onto the ground by those black armored warriors over and over again. But now, you all can't push me, Meng Yao, down. The one who should be pushed down is you all. A terrifying aura exploded out from Meng Yao's body, and the 2 rows of black armored warriors all flew out and fell onto the ground. Meng Yao didn't even take a look at them and walked towards the entrance of the palace. The 2 huge palace doors automatically opened. After walking into the palace, Meng Yao looked at the venue of the wedding ceremony. There was the place where I kneeled down, and there was that heartbroken gaze of his. You didn't die. Just as Meng Yao was reminiscing, Yi Zizi suddenly appeared at the side and asked curiously while sucking on a lollipop. Meng Yao lowered her head and looked at Yi Zizi. I know that this is a person who treats me well, unlike other people. End of this chapter. Chapter 1165. Yes, I'm not dead, Meng Yao said softly. Yi Zizi looked at Meng Yao curiously. Are you here for revenge today? Today, I'm here to make up for it, and also to collect a debt. Meng Yao said in a low voice. A murderous aura began to spread out in all directions, as if telling everyone in the palace. I, Meng Yao, am coming. He was here to seek justice for Yi. Yi Zizi pursed her lips. You're very strong now. Why is it like this? Are you undergoing a tribulation? You could say that. Meng Yao smiled. She hadn't expected this little girl to know about tribulation. Seeing Meng Yao's smile, Yi Zizi also smiled. You should get justice for Yi, but I can't stand on your side. I understand, Meng Yao said softly. Good luck. Yi Zizi rarely smiled. But when she saw the current Yi, she was still very happy. Meng Yao nodded. Yi Zizi skipped away, but then she turned around and asked, have you finished your lollipops? Not yet. Oh, ask me for more when you're done. I have a lot here. Alright. Yi Zizi didn't say anything else and left. However, very quickly, Qingye and the others all arrived at the scene. Yi Hua's subordinates were also present as well. They were all attracted by the aura just now. However, when they saw the resurrected Yi, everyone felt puzzled. Yi! Qian Yuqing exclaimed. How was this possible? Yesterday, Yi had turned into fragments and disappeared before his eyes. Why did she appear again today? Furthermore, it was as if he had become a completely different person. If not for his appearance, he would be a completely different person. Both Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were unable to believe what was happening before their eyes. Yi who was in front of them was actually so cold. Yi is already dead, my name is Meng Yao. Meng Yao said softly. These empresses treated her very well, and even though she rarely interacted with the others, they didn't look down on her. Qian Yuqing was very confused. Your name is Meng Yao. What about Yi? Yi is me, but my name is Meng Yao. This explanation seemed to make everyone understand something. Absolute Heaven asked in a probing manner, are you undergoing tribulation? You could say that, Meng Yao said indifferently. Qing Yutong asked curiously, Meng Yao, why did you come back this time? Perhaps this was the question that everyone should be concerned about. The killing intent that Meng Yao had just unleashed clearly indicated that she was here for revenge. But then again, this sort of thing was understandable. During the tribulation, it was unavoidable to be bullied. Once the tribulation was over, the magnanimous people wouldn't care, but the petty people would come to settle the score. What's more, Meng Yao was a woman, and she was going through the tribulation of love. Make up for it and collect the debt. Meng Yao said solemnly. Everyone could understand this, but what did he mean by making up for it? Qian Yuqing asked in confusion, Meng Yao, what do you want to make up for? Yi made a mistake. She wasted the Empress Dowager's medicine. I brought the antidote today. It can cure the Empress Dowager's illness. What? Everyone cried out in surprise. If the Empress Dowager's illness could be cured, that would be great news. The four wives were incomparably excited. They didn't expect that Yi would bring the antidote, repaying evil with good. But you owe me. I also want to take it back. Meng Yao said in a deep voice. Donghuang Baizhi asked gravely, Meng Yao, what do you want to take back? I want Gong Yu's life. Meng Yao had already made up her mind to kill. She had come here today to save the Empress Dowager and make up for her mistakes. The second was to kill Gong Yu. This woman had harmed him time and time again. If he didn't kill him, he would feel terrible in his heart. Everyone became silent. Gong Yu is his honor's little brother's woman. I want to kill this woman, but this woman is also able to save his honor's mother's life. How could this be resolved? Everyone was unable to make a choice, and even Qingye and the others were unable to make a choice for Yi Hua. This was a thorny problem. Meng Yao, wait a moment, we can't make the decision on this matter. Qingye said gravely. I still have to tell Yi Hua, but with Yihua's personality. He didn't expect that the incident yesterday would happen again today. Qian Yuqing had already disappeared from where she was, preparing to go and tell Yihua. Qingye and the others also followed after them. Meanwhile, Absolute Heaven's subordinates frowned slightly as they looked at Meng Yao. This woman came prepared. Next, it was Qian Yuqing who woke Yihua up. Yihua wore his clothes while feeling puzzled, then walked out of the bedroom. However, the four women didn't tell Yihua that although Meng Yao was able to cure his mother's illness, she still wanted Gong Yu's life. In the eyes of the four women, they felt that Meng Yao wanted to kill Gong Yu because she was jealous. However, what they didn't know was that if not for Gong Yu adding fuel to the fire, Meng Yao wouldn't have appeared at that kind of occasion. Very quickly, Yihua appeared in front of Meng Yao. Looking at Yi who was standing in front of him, Yihua was a bit stupefied. Is this really the Yi who died yesterday? However, looking at Yi who was in front of him, Yihua felt a kind of guilt. This was an emotion that Yihua had never felt before. I, the Supreme Overlord, also have a day where I feel guilty. Meng Yao didn't want to speak too much nonsense and said lightly, I am able to cure Empress Dowager. Yihua turned his head around and took a look at Donghuang Baiji. Didn't you say that she came here to settle the score? Are you sure? Yihua asked gravely. His mother's illness was already imminent, and he mustn't delay any longer. If it was possible, he would do anything. I am very sure, but I still want Gong Yu's life. Gong Yu's life? Yihua said gravely. Did she want to kill Gong Yu because she was jealous? That's right, because when I was Yi, this Gong Yu tried to frame me multiple times. She must die. Yihua asked gravely, what evidence do you have? Confront her face to face. Meng Yao said calmly. Yihua nodded his head, I can give you a chance, just a chance. Alright, I want to go and cure Empress Dowager right now. Yihua nodded his head. I shall let Yi give it a try. After all, she is also a kind of hope. After Meng Yao left, Zhu Tian came in front of Yihua and said respectfully, Your Honor. What's wrong? She was facing her tribulation earlier. Zhu Tian said in a low voice. And then? Zhu Tian said respectfully, Your Honor, from the strength that she displayed, I'm afraid that she has already surpassed the Supreme Overlord that we are familiar with. After hearing that, Yihua immediately wrinkled his brows. You mean to say that the Supreme Overlord can still become stronger? That's right, I'm afraid that this Meng Yao is living in a plane that we are not aware of. Yihua suddenly thought of something, and that was the rumor about the surname Donghuang that he heard in the deity's realm's palace. I'm afraid that there is a connection between them. Got it, let's wait and see first. Seems like my title is going to rise. However, I am already used to this title, and I am not used to changing it. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.